Welcome into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you on a Monday afternoon. Landon Schmidt producing for us. We're Sports Time. We're with you for the next 3 hours. A lot to get into today as we got to talk about all the mayhem, chaos from the weekend in college football. We got to talk about the Tigers. They're in a tight one right now against UConn, the first game of the Maui Invitational, as we're nearly halfway through the second half, and currently Tigers a 2-point advantage on the back-to-back defending champ UConn Huskies. So we'll talk a lot about that, and then we got to talk some Grizzlies. Grizzlies back in action tonight. Ja Morant planning on making his return tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. So hopefully we'll see him out there tonight. But a ton to get to. Brett, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great, making a 4-point Tiger lead after the steal and the slam on the other end, 52-48 Tigers. And I know right now we're battling up against a lot of people watching the Tiger game and listening to the Tiger game, but keep it with us and turn that sound down if you'd like, and we'll keep you updated. We can't give you a live call because we're a little on delay. I had the dunk before you had it, Bryant.
Yeah, no, you had it just a little bit before me, and so we'll see what happens over these next 12 minutes. But Tigers with a 4-point lead right now, and taking it to UConn, making it difficult for the defending champs.
No question. Very inspired first half, off to a great start for the Tigers. The defensive intensity, I don't think it was anything that this UConn team had witnessed all of this year. The back-to-back national champions, UConn Huskies. Many talking about them with a legitimate chance to do the very rare 3 in a row. And I had forgotten just how much I didn't like Danny Hurley.
That's
on me, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean,
that's on me.
I guess so. Yeah, it's been a while since you've seen Danny Hurley against the Tigers.
I know sports in a lot of ways different than from real life. I know that. And I don't know that we ever want it completely administered and held to real life.
Sure.
But earlier in the game when he got the technical and how he was talking to the referee, and you can be a C student lip reader and tell what other walk in life could you talk to someone else like that?
None, I would say. Not many.
There is not a human being walking any office hallway in the country that wouldn't directly be reported to a boss, to a person of authority over you, and you would be summarily walked to human resources and probably asked to hand over passcodes and keys.
Something at the very least.
Did you see that display?
I did. And a very fiery guy, as we know, and he was not happy. That was earlier in the first half, some of the fouls that were being called on his team. And, let the officials know about it at the break. And I was trying to look if they gave him that technical, because coming back from a break, I believe
that right?
ESPN said it was one of his assistants that got the technical. So, but
I'm sorry.
Viewing it definitely looked like Dan Hurley at least should have gotten the technical and maybe got a favor from one of the officials tacking it on to his assistant instead of him.
Boy, now on television, they're showing that highlight reel of 1992
look at this.
of Coach Penny Hardaway. I talked about it last week, and we came on the air about this time after, I think, the first game that year, that day, and he just put on a show. Co-MVP, I didn't remember this, with Bobby Hurley.
Wow.
I did not remember that.
How about that? Picture of both of them back in their day.
That's how great he was.
Wow, that is awesome.
All right, I'm going to say it. If the Tigers hang on and win this game, this will be the biggest win in the Penny Hardaway era at Memphis.
It will be it's definitely, you can make an argument for it, absolutely.
And if it's not, then it shows improvement, and I think what this year could end up being. But so far, so good. We'll keep you up to date. We're going to talk about it a lot as right here while we're on. It's going to come down to it. And This is proof positive. We're live, local, and late breaking.
Nothing recorded for
If
us.
we knew how this was going to end, we wouldn't be here, would we?
No, I would be in Vegas right now, Brett. I would not be here. That's for sure. But no,
we know how the weekend ended in college football, and boy, it was just all blowed up, wasn't it?
Man, I mean, it was crazy.
Bad grammar to highlight the point.
Well, hey, it's a good way to start a Monday afternoon. No, I mean, I was talking with John earlier. It was, I think, the funniest thing for me, just sitting on my couch taking it all in throughout the day, was how the conversation just changed so fast. I mean, you had the Indiana and Ohio State game go final. Okay, now Indiana has a loss. There are people already making the argument about look at their schedule and who they played.
And Ryan Day ran it up on
him. He did, and I was happy. I had the over in that game, so I was very happy that he ran it up on him. But, that conversation starts happening right when that game ends, and then not an hour later, you have the first domino in what was a weird day in the SEC fall with Ole Miss losing on the road at the Swamp against Florida. And then you go further into the night, you have Alabama lose, you have Texas A&M lose. It was a wild day. Penn State was in a tough one. Colorado goes
near
down.
Miss for Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, it was, BYU loses a back-to-back game. So, no, it was probably the wildest Saturday we've had this season.
Yeah, and Brian, I said of the four big premier SEC games that everybody was watching Saturday, with the first one being Ole Miss visiting the Swamp, the second one being Alabama at Oklahoma, third being Kentucky visiting Texas, and fourth being A&M going to Auburn. I said there would be two of the four would be upsets.
Yeah.
It ended up being three.
Yeah.
Ended up being three.
Crazy.
And Kentucky, play or two, but they didn't.
Right.
They didn't, and Texas ended up winning by 14, and that margin is plenty big enough at this point of the year. And I was in Gainesville for the Ole Miss game, and you could feel almost from the beginning it was going to come down to that type of game. Ole Miss fell behind 7-0, quickly matched, got 7-7, got ahead 14-7.
Yeah.
It was probably the only time during the course of the day I thought, okay, and at that point I'm thinking, maybe get to DJ Lagway, make him look like a freshman. He never did. They never really could rock him. Got a hit or two on him, but never really could get him to throw it up for grabs. He never turned it over. Florida quickly got it to 14-14. Ole Miss missed a field goal, and then the big emphasis at halftime was go out and stop them on that first drive. Well, Ole Miss did, and then Michael White fumbled the punt. The defense bowed up, held it to just 3, which felt like a small W win. And then Ole Miss got the tie at 17-17. Florida scores, and Ole Miss only scores 3 points in the second half.
Wow, that's insane. But that's just the day it was for Ole Miss. And I think you made a good point about DJ Lagway. Look, I mean, we talked about before the season started, and even early in the season. I don't think in an ideal world DJ Lagway is playing this much. I mean, going into the season, it was we want him to kind of sit and learn this year, and then next year will be his year. But because of injuries, because of poor play earlier in the season, he was thrusted in there. And you're right. I mean, Saturday did not look like a freshman. They didn't need him to do a lot. I mean, they got a lot of yards on the ground, but when they needed him to make a play, it felt like he was there to make one.
And he did. And he didn't turn it over late in the game. Jackson Dart trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
Through the interceptions. One of them, receiver stopped on a route. You can play the blame game. He accepted it as stand-up a youngster as I've ever been around, in good times and in bad, and he was devastatingly crushed after the game Saturday. That everybody in the Ole Miss persuasion that we all felt, and everybody felt like that. Now, with everything that happened Saturday night, the prospect of a 3-loss team being in the college football playoffs. Look, this is just my opinion, and I'm going to offer it up. I don't think that's Ole Miss. I don't think it's anybody from the SEC. When you've lost 3 times, I think you've relinquished your right to be in the mix. Now, it may have to get down to some. Many are thinking there's just no way there's not going to be 4 SEC teams. You can play the whole, but if we played that schedule and they had to play this schedule and they had to go to this state, and you can do all that. I think 3 eliminates you. If you want to, all my friends texting me about, the possibilities of this happen, that upset, and need this one to win, and this one by 19, and this one to stand with her foot pointed to the north and hope lightning strike. You can believe all that if you would like.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I deal in Realville. I deal in. We've played 11 games for just about everybody around the country. I think everybody. And if you've lost 3 times, you've forsaken the right to be too puffy about anything.
You laying that out of what people are texting you, it almost makes me think of like the TV shows, the movies where you either have the detective or the conspiracy theorist, and they have all of the like pieces of paper on the board, and they have them all tagged, and they have the strings connecting all of them. That's what I picture in the how does Ole Miss make the playoff scenario of just lines going everywhere.
If you want a version of CSI New Orleans or CSI SEC or CSI Alabama, CSI Ole Miss, knock yourself out. And you know, if so and so loses in the SEC championship game, I don't want to step on anybody's fun. I don't want to be a killjoy. No. I'm just not going to play along.
Yeah.
We've had almost the entire season. At this point, if you're not who you are at this point, then when do we ever decide it?
Well,
and the whole we could play 9 times, and I even did Neil McCready's podcast yesterday afternoon, and I said if we started this week and started replaying the whole year, I think Ole Miss record might be better.
Yeah.
But you know what? We don't do that. That's fantasy land. That's little kid talk. That's if and maybe and how come and why. And I'm looking at everything played out, and same for Alabama. Now, will it make those 2 big rivalries this week, Egg on Friday, Iron on Saturday? What will that do to them? Well, there's plenty of motivation for Auburn. Yeah. And they can even get bowl eligible with the win. But for Alabama, Alabama's headed to the Citrus Bowl, and it looks like Ole Miss, with a win over Mississippi State, would be headed to the bowl in Tampa. That's just the hard facts of it, in my opinion.
No, I think you're right. I think it would be really, really tough for either of those teams. But you mentioned Alabama and their game. I mean, just for Oklahoma, Brett, we were talking about them, the couple of weeks leading up to this game of, man, Oklahoma just not ready for the SEC. They just haven't
worst
looked
Oklahoma team I've ever seen.
Yeah, and then I mean, for all that, they can at the end of the day say, we beat Alabama in our first year of the SEC and knocked them out of playoff contention.
Not just beat them. I mean, put it on.
Yes, they did, and Milroe did not look good in that game. I mean, it was a wild game and a good win for Oklahoma.
And you got to give it to Kalen DeBoer in his very first year at Alabama. He did something that it took the last 3 seasons completely for Nick Saban to do. Lose 3 games on the road in the SEC. Way to go, Coach DeBoer.
Wow, yeah. Ugh. Not the way you want to start if you're the head coach at Alabama.
It's not, and it was 3 very uninspired. Well, 2 at least. Tennessee, I think they just, going up there and the reemergence. I think the establishing by Josh Heupel of being one of the teams to contend with around the SEC and around college football. You have to reestablish home court, home field, and I think if anything, that's what Billy Napier probably did this year. Florida may not be completely back, but it feels like the swamp is starting to get back. Neyland Stadium's starting to get back, and Bama, but then at Vandy and at Oklahoma, that was really poor efforts. But Bryant, for Kalen DeBoer, who else? Who would have done better than this?
It's an impossible job to take over.
It was impossible.
I mean, anything that happens, if it is not perfect and a win, you can find something of, well, Nick Saban did this, Nick Saban was this, Nick Saban was that. I mean, it's impossible unless he went undefeated this year and was the number 1 team in the college football playoff polls and rankings and bracket. It was going to be almost impossible for him to say, oh, he did a great job in year 1.
And now the committee's going to have a really tough job tomorrow night, and then I think the hardest one's going to be the release next week because so few teams play championship weeks, and next week will really decide it. Feels like Georgia's right back in the mix, and as so many of us had, it took a circuitous route to get to it. It looks like we're going to have a Texas-Georgia SEC championship game.
What a wild way to get there, but so it looks like Georgia's going to be in there, and then I guess whatever happens this weekend with that Texas A&M game. But It's going to be still a lot of fun.
Look
I think
at the
this week's going to be
Tigers.
fun. Look at them up 7 right now. Oh, no.
Make it 10.
Wow, how about that? So 10-point lead for Penny Hardaway and his Tiger team as they're taking on UConn in Maui. It looks like UConn's going to take a timeout. So let me tell you about today's show, what we've got set up over these next 3 hours. 3:30, Jonah Dillon, the Tiger football beat writer from the Commercial Appeal. He'll join us. We'll talk Tigers. They were off this past weekend, but Thursday night on Thanksgiving, final regular season game of the year against Tulane. I believe nearly a 2-touchdown dog in that one. But we'll talk to Jonah about this game, maybe where he thinks the Tigers could end up in terms of bowl season. 3:45, we'll talk Tigers and what they're doing in Maui. At that point, we should have a final or very close to a final score in this game against UConn. But right now, up 10 points in the second half. 4 o'clock, Pat Smith from Jocks down in Birmingham will join us to talk some college football. We'll have to talk about those 2 SEC teams he covers, Alabama, their loss, Auburn, their win, and take a look at some of the other SEC teams and what they're doing as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. 4:30 will be time for our Sissy's Log Cabin. Look back at the weekend in the SEC. 4:45, big number of the day. 5 o'clock, DeMichael Cole, the Grizzlies beat writer at the Commercial Appeal, will join us. We'll talk Grizzlies with him. It looks like John Morant will return to the court tonight against Portland. We'll talk injuries with him. We'll talk about what this team has done coming into this game tonight at home. 5:30, we'll get to our Monday Night Football pick and preview Baltimore and the LA Chargers tonight. The battle of the Harbaugh brothers. We'll also get to our big 4 head coaches combined for those 2 franchises. And then, like we always do at 5:45, we'll wrap up today's show with Crunch Time. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. Get over to Family Leisure for the ultimate game room and fall sale. Complete the ultimate game room with a new pool table, a shuffleboard, and an arcade game. Help them clear out their overstock of theater seating. It's all priced to move. It's also perfect fire pit weather, and at Family Leisure, all fire pits are 20 to 30% off. Don't forget about those spas. Spas up to $1,500 of their in-stock spas, and they're also ready for delivery. So make sure you head out to Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40.
Produced by Landon Schmidt, we're Sports Time. He's Bryant, I'm Brett. We're with you until 6 o'clock. We'll keep you updated on everything going on a very busy Monday. And as always, we're in our Family Leisure Studios. And as always, you can text or call us at 901-360-8255. That's the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk line. All our guests will appear on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. Speaking of always, every day, every Monday through Friday this hour, brought to you by the great people at Lexus of Memphis, and they all send out happy Thanksgiving to all and a warm, happy holiday season to everybody in our listening audience. They're at 2600 Ridgeway, and they're online at lexusofmemphis.com. Great offers on all 2025 models, the remaining 24s, and always special leasing options. That's the last time I'm going to use always today. I've already used that a lot, hadn't I? You can call them at 901-334-9673, but stop by the one and only Lexus dealership at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving in style. Driving luxury and confidence, knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the safe luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day has got to be what's going on in Maui. Right now, Memphis a 10-point lead with 7:57 left.
Top developing story.
Yes. Well, it's going to be my top story either way, just that they were playing right now, depending on no matter what was happening on the court. But the Tigers up by 10. It will be a much bigger story if they can close this out and finish it. It looks like Nicholas Jourdain just fouled out with about 7:50 left in the game. So he'll be taking a seat for the rest of the game. We'll see what the Tigers can do. Tyrese Hunter has been fantastic in this game. Those two guards, him and Haggerty, driving to the basket, getting points. And I will say, Jason Munns, when we talked to him on Friday, said, let's keep an eye on those two guys and their injuries. We know that they have not been practicing the last couple of weeks. How effective will they be on day 2, day 3 of Maui? But right now, they are looking really, really good. Tyrese Hunter, 26.7 for 10 from 3. PJ Haggerty with 14 points. And Dane Danger has looked really good, 12 points off the bench as he remains in that role coming off the bench. I really wasn't surprised how the Tigers played in the first half early, going out and punching UConn in the mouth. Yeah, we talked about it a lot the last couple of days of last week, and I've talked about it with a couple of people earlier today, that you look at this Tiger team, they've really tested themselves in non-conference play. You look at the 4 games they've played, 3 of the 4 against KenPom top 100 teams. On the other side, UConn, they've not challenged themselves to start the season. I don't blame them. Look at their schedule. It gets hard with Maui, and then after that, they play a lot of top teams. They've got a really tough conference slate, so I don't blame them for starting it off easy, but their first 4 games against all 4 teams outside of the top 300 on KenPom. So they've been winning those games by a lot. They haven't had to do a lot to win those games, and they've got a lot of new pieces, a lot of young guys that they're relying on. So it didn't surprise me that the Tigers came out and looked good in that first half, but they've continued to put that foot on the gas, continue to play really, really well, and this would be a massive victory if they can close it out. Only about 7:30 left.
Up 9 with about 7:24 left in the attacking, aggressive style early in the game. You know, the kind of these slower first halves for the Tigers. Not today, and kept up the pace out of the break and into this really last closing crunch time moment of the game. My top story, told you, 4 big SEC games. I said there would be at least 2 upsets. There were 3. Auburn at home against A&M, Ole Miss at Florida, and OU at home against Bama. And around college football happened.
Yeah.
We knew a few weeks ago all the people get so hot and bothered about those stupid rankings the first week or two they do that. Please stop this. Please stop this with these big screaming takes. I know we all want interaction. I know we all want clicks and subs and retweets and stuff. Stop with that.
Yeah.
And I wish the College Football Playoff Committee would stop with it. And I've been consistent about it through the years. It will play out. Getting everybody so upset about it, I don't think it drives any more interest to a sport that's already thriving. I think it picks at it. I think it digs at the credibility of it. I just said it.
Yeah.
I think it digs at the credibility of it for you to do something on election night. Remember the first one it was released way back then? We didn't need that, and I think there might even been one the week before that. Whatever, but it's all going to play out, and the upsets aren't over. And there's the very real possibility of a 3-loss team in that very final playoff. I've been consistent. I think when you lose 3 times, you go to the back of the line. You go to a meaningless bowl, and let me tell you what the meaningless bowls are. Everything that's not a college football playoff game.
Yeah, that's what it's turning into.
There are 10 bowls that are bowl-related, and, of course, there's the standalone finals. Those 11 games is what matter. Now, if you want to go to a bowl, I'm gonna go with Ole Miss. I'm gonna try to have a good time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to go to the Liberty Bowl if around that time of year I can make it. But you're going to something. You remember the Ole Miss spring game, Bryant, where it kind of broke off into kind of Derby Day
Yeah, that's right.
Stuff. The rest of these bowls mean as much as the tug-of-war contest at the Ole Miss spring game.
Well, it's a good comparison, unfortunately, but just how Saturday went. It was a wild one.
Not top story of the day.
Well, my not top story of the day, the Grizzlies back in action tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers, and all indications look like Ja Morant is going to return. It was reported about an hour ago or so that he would be playing tonight for the Grizzlies in this game against Portland. He was listed on the status report last night as questionable, but we know if you kind of keep up with the Grizzlies and how they list their injuries and different things like that, you know that when a player gets into that questionable zone, that usually means they're going to play, and it looks like Ja Morant will play tonight. Also, Marcus Smart listed as questionable with an illness. That illness has kept him out for 2 games already. We'll see if he's able to go tonight. But with Ja Morant returning, with maybe Marcus Smart returning, this team is looking healthier, and this patch gets easier. You look at the last 2 games against Chicago, and then before that against the 76ers. You won both those games. This next 4-game stretch looks like very winnable games. We'll see what they can do, and it starts tonight against Portland.
My not top story is Bryant's developing top story, and it's developing into my top story. We may come back and redo the top and not top. We may close the top and not today. Can we do that? Is that allowed?
I don't know. We'll have to think about it for a little bit.
Short week, we may do that. But this is Memphis off to the start they're off to against UConn, and it would be just a ginormous win. That speaks for itself, and it would really set them up for the rest of this week in Maui, but it also would help for the rest of the year in Memphis. It would help sell tickets, and that's needed. It would help create buzz. That's needed, especially with the Grizzlies, I think, in their best patch of the year. Tigers now up 12 over UConn with 6:30 to play and the clock ticking in Maui at the little bandbox gym. This would be huge. It would be huge on Selection Sunday, because we know what UConn's going to go on and do the rest of this year.
Yeah.
And to be able to say Memphis Tigers got that November win against UConn, that will resonate near and far.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And we'll see. We'll keep you updated on what happens here in Maui, as Tigers a big lead right now over UConn. But that'll do it for top and not top story of the day. Let's go ahead and get to our first break. And when we come back, we'll switch gears. We'll talk Tiger football. Jonah Dillon, Tiger football beat writer at the Commercial Appeal, he joins us next. We'll talk about the last regular season game of the season, Thursday night against Tulane. We'll do that next on Sports Time.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. I'm here at Town Village Audubon Park interviewing a new resident, Carolyn. Share with us why you chose Town Village.
Well, if your parents or special friends need to make that big move, let me share with you my experience. It was tough for me to leave home, but then I discovered Town Village. I would like to highly recommend Town Village to you and your loved ones. And after looking at all the amenities and meeting all the people and staff, I was hooked. From restaurant, bistro, 3 meals per day, housekeeping, transportation, security, health care, physical therapy, exercise room, and even a heated pool and spa. Come see us and make your new home at Town Village.
Visit us and call Daniel at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home, Town Village.
All 650 acquisition fee, K4 LXS, SEO 29100, MSRP 24230, Telluride RG 529 196, MSRP 41730, K5 S53 23133, MSRP 28330. Must finance through Kia. Excludes tax title and license with approved credit. Dealer stock only. See dealer for complete details. Valid through 12/2/24.
Hey, Jeff Allen, it's time to get ready for a season of new traditions at Gossett Kia South Mount Moriah.
Randy, my new tradition is saving my customers big bucks. I've got a 2025 Kia K4 LXS at $199 a month. That's less than $7 a day for a new ride. A 2024 K5 now $269 a month. Both $34.99 due at signing and a 24-month lease. And a 2025 Telluride, that spacious 8-seater SUV with high towing capacity and all-terrain tires, $348 per month. $39.99 due at signing.
Plus all new EV9, 0% for 72 months. And every Kia comes with America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
So whether you live in Horn Lake, South Haven, Olive Branch, or Memphis, you'll be happy at Gossett Kia on Mount Moriah.
You or someone you know or care about has dealt with a difficult divorce. When facing divorce, you need the attorneys at Rice Law. Nick and Larry Rice lead the firm with 3 generations and 7 decades of experience. Located in Memphis, serving the entire state of Tennessee and North Mississippi. Rice Law is who you need to call. Simple or difficult divorce, they know how to handle it. Call Rice Law at 901-526-6701, or for more information, visit them at aboutdivorce.com. That's aboutdivorce.com.
Kevin Harlan here from Monday Night Football on Westwood One. It's a big AFC matchup coming up this week from Los Angeles, and it's a battle of the brothers. The 7-4 Baltimore Ravens, coached by John Harbaugh, traveling west to take on the 7-3 Chargers, coached by Jim Harbaugh. Join Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner and me for all the action on Monday Night Football.
Right here on Sports 56.
You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
All right, gentlemen, this is Emmett Smith on behalf of Depend, and I've got the perfect play. Run straight to your doctor's office for a life-changing gift, because when prostate cancer is caught early, it's up to 99% treatable, and one blood test might be all it takes. And now through November, Depend is donating to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for select purchases. Talk about a great play.
From September 1st to November 30th, Depend is donating 30 cents to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for differentiated yards vehicle products purchased in the U.S. up to a maximum of $400,000 void in Mississippi.
Ole Miss Rebel Yell is back. The Rebel Yell Hotline Radio Show is back on WHBQ Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Every Monday night at 6, hear the latest news on your Ole Miss Rebels with Yancey Porter with 24/7 Sports, former Ole Miss defensive tackle Mike Fitzsimmons, Gordon Ford covering SEC Sports Call, and former Ole Miss baseball announcer Gary Darby. From kickoff to free throw to extra innings, your Ole Miss Sports on the Rebel Yell Hotline Show right here Monday night at 6 on Sports 56, 560 AM and 98.5 FM. Your Mid-South Sports Station.
Now back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here are your hosts, Red Stat Sports Movie and Brian Gates.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios as the Tigers currently up 13 points over UConn, about 3:40 left in this ball game. But we got to switch gears now and talk about the football team as they get ready for their final regular season game of the season. And Jonah Dillon from the Commercial Appeal, he joins us now to talk this group. Jonah, one regular season game left for a lot of these seniors that we talked about a couple weeks ago when it was senior day. This was built up before the season started in the offseason as the big game, Thanksgiving night. Who's going to maybe, might be a matchup between teams deciding to host the conference championship, and we know things have changed. What will this game feel like on Thursday when you don't have that type of hype around it?
Yeah, well, the stakes are still pretty high for Tulane. Obviously, they know they're going to the conference title game, but they're very much alive, especially with all the chaos we saw last weekend in the playoff race if things break right for them. To get there, they need help. They obviously would need to win their next two games against Memphis and then against Army in the conference title game. Also, if they win on Thursday, they get to host the conference title game based on those tiebreakers. So there's some incentive for them from the Memphis side. Part of it is you want to play spoiler, right? You want to be able to go in there and basically eliminate them from playoff contention if you're able to get that win. And then I think, getting to 10 regular season wins would be something. I think getting to go on the road and upset the team that right now looks like the class of the conference. And really, when you look at the past 3 years, I mean, Tulane has been the most consistently good team in the conference and kind of a barometer for where everybody else is. So I think that the stakes for Memphis are to kind of measure yourself against them. Obviously, like you said, the hope at this point, and even when this game was put together from the conference perspective, they wanted to put the best possible game they could in this time slot, and they thought this was the best game. And so obviously not having Memphis in the conference title race at this point is a bit of a disappointment in that sense. But I think still going to be two really good football teams out there on Thursday.
Joan, I sure know it from the Ole Miss perspective, but I think a lot around the Tigers feel the very same way. This was a missed opportunity, and you just wonder, when will it present itself again, quite with the simplicity for both. But since we're talking Memphis, for them, and I will plenty talk about it with Ole Miss. I mean, how many times in the rest of Ole Miss football history are they going to the Swamp as a 13.5-point favorite? Almost the same thing for the Tigers. It was laid out So clearly for them to be in the mix and the opportunity has been missed. That feeling will gnaw for a long time, won't it?
Yeah, I think especially because we don't know what's, like you said, we don't know when this opportunity is going to come about again. First of all, we don't know what next season is going to look like for Memphis because there's going to be so many players leaving. There's a lot of unknowns with what the roster is going to look like and all that. And then going forward in college football, we don't know what the playoff format is going to look like a few years down the line, right? There's always talk about the SEC wants more teams and the power conferences are going to break off and stuff like that. So all we know is that for the time being, the Group of Five has access to the playoff, and Memphis was positioned this year to be that team that makes the playoff. And obviously, it's not going to happen. And so, like you said, I think that missed opportunity part of it, especially with where Memphis's roster was this year, is definitely going to sting. I think it'll depend on what happens next for how people look back on it.
You make a great point. Under this current system, the one we're dealing with, and I don't know what the future will look like, I hope it stays a little more in some ways like this one, certainly for the access for the University of Memphis. But Jonah, let's take it wild whim and say the Tigers are 11-0 going to New Orleans Thursday night, and they win, and then they win the conference the championship game. I even tried to bring this up during the August halcyon days of the run-up period. Not only would they'd be in because they would be the Group of Five rep, but they would be maybe the number 3 or 4 seed because Boise's going to be 4 tomorrow night. And if they maintain, and that's with a loss.
Yeah, I think if Memphis is undefeated, it would be a 4 seed would be for sure. Obviously, depending on what happens with the ACC, because those Big 12 teams all have 2 losses, and it's not like they've played a super high level of competition. Even if Memphis had 1 loss, like let's just say that Memphis had beat UTSA. We would be having a discussion right now about Memphis versus that Big 12 champion. Now, ultimately, I think that the Big 12 champion would get the spot probably. And I'm saying behind Boise State. Obviously, Boise State could lose, and then that would change anything. I think that right now, like if Memphis had 1 loss, we'd be talking about a team that was ranked probably near the top 15 and had a realistic chance to make the playoffs with multiple paths. It would be a really interesting discussion, I think, with where the Big 12 is and who ends up winning, obviously, because it's so hard to tell right now who's going to be the Big 12 champion. But those are the margins, like we talked about all season. I mean, it was right there for Memphis, and even looking back, both those games, obviously, against Navy and UTSA were winnable games. If they'd won one of them, they'd be right in the thick of it, especially if they could go beat Tulane, because that would be another ranked win against obviously a really high-quality team.
Mm-hmm. Since we're not talking about playoffs for the Tigers, what have you been hearing in terms of maybe possible destination for bowl games?
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to be up in the air. I think that there's a lot of possibilities. I think you look at like the AAC bowl slot and the Fenway Bowl and the Military Bowl and this year the Independence Bowl, all going to be options. It always comes down, I think, a lot of times people have the wrong idea. Like, it's not like, oh, if you win this many games, you go to this bowl game. These decisions are not being made based on wins and losses. And so it comes down to who people in these positions want to choose, obviously, for each bowl that has kind of priority. And so it'll depend. Obviously, look, it'll depend on, like, if Tulane goes to the college football playoff, then that's one less slot for the AAC, right? And so then everybody kind of gets bumped to something else. And so that's why you look at these bowl projections. And I know people want to start planning trips and they want to get excited about it, but it's really hard to tell until, we get into like a week before when things start to shake out and people have an idea of, first of all, the bowl eligible teams and then where things are going to start to slot in.
I want to go wherever for the Tigers a 10-win team goes, and I want to play a Group of 4 team similarly to last year in running into Iowa State, and go out there and put it on them and finish with 11 wins, and then hear everybody complain.
Well, first of all, I'll just say that there's anywhere a 10-win team goes. It's like I always say, last year Memphis went 9-3, went to the Liberty Bowl. If Memphis had won 6 games, had been 6-6, they would have gotten to the exact same bowl game, right? So it's not it's like, oh, if they win this game, they'll get to this bowl. Realistically, I think I would guess at this point with the 9 wins, Memphis is likely going to go to a place where they play against a power conference team, probably an ACC team. And that would give them an opportunity. Obviously, look, they have an ACC win against Florida State earlier this year. I think getting 2 power conference wins in a season would be something. There's going to be a lot of positives. When we look back, like you said, people are going to be unhappy, and rightfully so, with certain things. I think that when we look back, there's also going to be a lot of things you can look back and say, that was really positive development and things they did that season.
Thursday night's opponent, Tulane. They're clearly the best team the Tigers have played this year. Are they the best team over the last 2 years since you've been on that beat, Jonah, that they'll be facing Thursday night at Yeoman?
Yeah, I mean, I think the SMU team last year that Memphis played was a really solid team. I think Memphis played them pretty well. I mean, that was a competitive game. Memphis had a lot of chances to go win down the stretch. You see what SMU is doing this season in the ACC. They did it last year in the AAC, and then they went to a new league and they were really good. I think that Tulane, like I said, the consistency that they've shown, especially when you talk about bringing in a new coach and a new quarterback and just continuing with the same level of consistency, is really, really impressive. They've got Mekhi Hughes, who's the best running back in the conference, one of the best running backs in the country. They've got a quarterback in Gary Mentor who's been incredibly impressive this season, really efficient. Their offense, I mean, they lead the country in time of possession, and so you kind of expect like a ball control type offense, but they move the ball really well. They score a lot of points, and it's really tough to look at this team and say, okay, here's how you attack them, here's how you beat them, because they're really well rounded. You know, like I said, they run the ball and they play good defense, which is obviously like a throwback. But you look at what John Summerall has done; it's just been really impressive. And you have to say, like right now, this is the kind of class of the conference they have been over the past couple of years, and we should expect it to be moving forward.
John, have you ever been to a game at Yeoman?
I have not.
You'll love it. The view from the press box, your seat, it feels like you're almost sitting on their shoulders. It is a really good vantage point to watch the game from.
Yeah, like I said, that's what people said when we were at the Alamo Dome earlier this year. Kind of like that. It was a really cool viewing point. So I think it'll be interesting. I'm kind of interested to see what the environment's like for Tulane. Like obviously it's not. You know, Thanksgiving games, like even the Egg Bowl, people kind of expected, you know, okay, on Thanksgiving I'm going to go watch football, right? But this is a new thing for these fans, and so I'm interested to see how they're able to pack it out for obviously a team that's been really impressive this season. They might get to play one more home game in the conference title game, but this could be their last game of the season at home. So I think it's going to be a cool environment. I think it's going to be a high-level football game.
Yeah. When you look around this conference, 6 coaches have been fired before the season has even ended. It could go up to 7 with it looks like Dilfer might be out at UAB once the season's over. What do you make of that? I mean, you look around college football, I think there's about 15 openings right now at the head coach position, and right now 6 of them come from the American.
Yeah, it is a weird one, and almost like as it keeps happening, and it's like, okay, well, it feels like something's going on here. And like you just mentioned, if you asked anybody at the beginning of the season who's the first coach in this conference that's going to be fired, they would have said Trent Dilfer. And somehow 6 coaches have been fired, and he hasn't. So I think, and look, they got a big win on Saturday, so you know, it's not. I think it's guaranteed that he's going to get fired. It's interesting because it's kind of, you try to wrap your head around it. Like, this is obviously a league where a lot of teams are trying to position themselves. Those teams are in different kind of phases, right? Like a school like Temple, which is kind of in a moment of like, you know, they had to say today that they're going to keep the football program. Like they had to come out and make a statement saying that. So if you're at that point, then things probably aren't going great, which they aren't there. I mean, they need a lot of investment. A place like East Carolina, which they fired their coach, interim coach comes in, they start winning all their games, right? And that's a job where like they realistically think that they can compete for conference championships. I think it's, and then the other part of it is you have schools trying to position themselves for revenue sharing in the house settlement, right? And so if you want to fire a coach, this is the time to do it if you have the money to be able to, because you don't know what your finances are going to be in a couple months, right? And so I think that's part of it is these schools trying to position themselves for what's going to happen next. And it's going to be really interesting to kind of track who gets those jobs, what kind of coaches are coming into this conference, because a lot of those teams are going to play against Memphis next year, and it's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, it will, but it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out Thursday night. Jonah, as always, thanks so much for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy the game Thursday.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jonah.
Thanks,
Jonah Dillon with us talking Tigers football. I know he's got his eye on. We all have our eye on as well, trying to talk and watch the Tigers down the stretch of this game. 82-77 Tigers lead with 24 seconds to play. UConn on the line just hit the front end of a 1-1. Jason's Deli, they say go Tigers and happy Thanksgiving. Big supporters of the local teams and all the all the fans from around the area, they know that at Jason's Deli, whether it's dining in, to go, or delivery, wholesome food forever. It's a family thing at Jason's Deli. And this week, with so many family and friends coming in, you're going to need a lot of food stocked up. I know the traditional fare for Thursday, but a lot of people starting to come in tomorrow and into Wednesday and staying over the weekend. Might be glad when some of them leave, but you want them to leave full and very pleased with the great food from Jason's Deli, whatever it is off the menu or a catering event, an office event this week or into the holiday season. They have it. Low delivery fees. Call the local deli for details. Vegetarian, gluten-sensitive options. Same day and last-minute orders welcome. That's when they excel. When you don't think you have your event planned properly and you give up and say, take over Jason's Deli, that's when they do, and they pull it off in fine style for you. The location's at Ridgeway Road, across from MUS, over by the University of Memphis, at Poplar and Highland, down in Olive Branch, out in Cordova. Healthy, first franchise in the nation to be trans fat free. They were on the health kick a long time ago, before it got cool. It's all about choice at Jason's Deli. Whether you seek a gluten-free menu, vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids meals, you will be delighted with whatever you choose at Jason's Deli. Plenty of organic food to choose from, off the menu or in catering, and a constant in every one of these locations. That great salad bar with over 30 items to choose from for you to prepare it however you would like. Catering anytime, anywhere, and complimentary ice cream at the locations at Ridgeway Road, Poplar and Highland, Olive Branch, and Cordova. Check them out online as well at jasonsdeli.com.
Well, it's a 3-point game, 14 seconds left, and UConn has the ball. It's going to come down to the end. We'll see what happens, and we'll update you when we come back from this break. Let's grab a break. When we come back, we're talking Tigers and UConn.
Sports 56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Indulge yourself or your loved ones this season with a trip to Sissy's Log Cabin during Sales Tax Paid Weekend, November 29th through December 2nd. Shop in store to save on our expansive selection of designer brands, one-of-a-kind jewelry, and spectacular statement pieces, all while enjoying the Sissy's promise of unmatched quality, service, and brilliant natural diamonds. Stop by any location to find your trusted jeweler for holiday memories that will last a lifetime. Only at Sissy's Log Cabin.
The 2025 Range Rover Sport sits right at the heart of the Land Rover lineup, offering a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility. Smaller and more agile than a full-size Range Rover, it's a great option for everyone who wants luxury and practicality. Every model comes with 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive standard. Whether you navigate city streets or tackle rough terrain, Range Rover Sport has you covered. Every drive is powerful and breathtaking. The 2025 Range Rover Sport is the epitome of sporty luxury. Test drive one at Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City.
What gift are you going to get that person that's impossible to shop for? Give the gift of sound. JLab has the perfect gift for anyone with a variety of styles, sizes, and colors. And they have products for under $100, under $50, and even under $25. I love that. Save up to 60% on select JLab products this holiday season on JLab.com. Look for the JLab blue box at retailers everywhere or visit JLab.com today.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five-Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you. Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. We've had a couple of wrecks already out here, including that we had earlier in the Midtown area. One vehicle went down an embankment on 240 southbound at South Parkway. Again, as of last check over there, it was in its cleanup stages. Trying to build out here on 240, getting onto 385 Bill Morris Parkway going outbound. Hey, when you need dependable towing for your car or truck, make sure you call Marion Towing, your 24-hour towing service. Check them out online at mariontowing.com. I'm Commander Chug with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. We have overtime in Maui. A late run by UConn. It's the reason they're the back-to-back defending champs. They've got some players on their team, even with all the new guys they added. They've got some dudes. Tigers were up 12 points with a little more than 3 minutes left in this game, but UConn comes back. They before we went to a break, there was the segment where Memphis inbounds the ball. They're up 3. They trap them. They got to get the ball across. They throw it, trying to get a trailing guy, and it goes out of bounds. UConn gets the ball back, draws up a great play, solo ball. The one guy, one of the few guys you didn't want to get the ball. He's a 47% three-point shooter in 4 games this year, was about a 38% three-point shooter last year. He gets the ball, gets a tough look, but is able to knock it down.
Real tough look.
Really tough look. I mean, had a guy in his face coming off the screen.
That was good D.
It was good D, and it was a good shot. And so now we're going to overtime. Tigers have fought here, but it's going to be tough in overtime. We'll see what they can do.
It will be, and I will say it regardless of the outcome. Down the stretch, I don't want to hear anybody say fold. They didn't. UConn made plays. The Memphis defense and effort down the stretch was right there with them, and the other team, they have good players too. And in this case, the back-to-back national champions, they have really good players. Memphis has played well in this game. I don't think there should be any criticism out of this game, regardless of how this 5-minute overtime ends. We will see, and that's going to take a while. And in the game so far, Hunter and Haggerty, they've been great. 26 for Hunter, 22 for Haggerty. Dane Danger, mostly early. He had 14, and Carlos Rogers with 11.
Yeah, and we should add that Haggerty is going to be on the bench the entire overtime. He fouled out late in this one, so he's had a great game, but they'll be without him. And it was big late. I mean, you felt good if you were the Tigers because we've talked about it, and we even saw it in this game. P.J. Haggerty is a guy that can draw fouls, and he was drawing a lot of them in this game, getting to the free throw line, but fouled out late in the game. I think about a minute left, maybe even less. He fouled out, so they'll have to play this last 5 minutes without him. But Tyrese Hunter has been the big story today, how hot he has been, knocking down a ton of threes. He's really been the big part of the firepower for the Tigers today.
And the Tigers miss an opportunity. Their first possession of overtime, always big to draw first blood. In overtime, the Tigers couldn't. Now the defensive end trying to guard UConn. And I'll say it again, man, and the look on Danny Hurley, almost indignant all day at the referees, like he's pulling out some game that he's getting jobbed in. Man, this guy's driving me nuts. 26 fouls called on UConn, 17 on the Tigers. I think that's the subject of his ire, but it's not like he's getting homered in Maui, and that's the look he has on his face all day.
I would love to I'd love to just be a fly on the wall from the time the game ends, just following Dan Hurley after the end, because I'm curious. Like, I know
have the beat machine ready.
For me,
have the delay button.
Yes, you got to have that. But for me, like when I'm excited or when I'm really frustrated, something like it takes me time to kind of get back down to even keel. I'm curious, how long does it take Dan Hurley after a game to kind of get back to just cool, calm, and collected? Because
does he ever?
And that's maybe even the bigger question, because that guy feels like he is on 10 at all times.
I think he's going to fill the cuss can up, win or lose, with his post-game reaction UConn gets 2 free throws, so they do draw first blood in overtime. They're up to 84-82. But the Tigers have played well. They have shown a lot of people with this 4-0 start and with this effort today that they can have a real good season.
Yeah, no, they definitely have, and I think, going back to our preseason wins and losses, I didn't really know what to expect with this team, and so seeing what they've done these first 4 games, they've got 2 guards that it feels like at any point you can say go and get a bucket in Hunter and Haggerty, and in this day and age of college basketball, you have to have at least one of those guys. They have 2.
And the 2, maybe not the 2 best, but my 2 favorite Coach Hardaway coach teams. First year, that was Jeremiah Martin, and then 2 years ago, it was Kendrick Davis. They have 2 of those guys.
Yeah.
Clear the blank out and get a bucket. You got two guys that can do it.
And that team a couple years ago with Kendrick Davis, you had DeAndre Williams with him, and so it felt like you had 2 guys, kind of 2 go-to guys. But I think the difference between this and that, and I think it's a lot bigger, is DeAndre Williams was a big man. Those 2 guys can play off of each other, pick and rolls, pop down and, work off each other a lot. These are 2 guards. This is a 1 and a 2. I think it's a lot harder for those 2 guys to be as selfless as they are, still get buckets, and feed each other as they've been able to do these first 4 games. It's been really fun and impressive to watch.
The Tigers staying right in there in the overtime period now, 87-86. After a 2-point shot, and now both teams going at it pretty hard. I think just competing hard. I don't. They're being separated, but I don't think it was rising to that. Just be safe. Hurley's out there in the middle of it. Man, this guy, get me to break before I lose it.
Well, let's go ahead and get to a break. A tight one in Maui, maybe one getting a little heated. And when we come back, we've got to talk some SEC. It was a weird weekend in the SEC. We'll talk about that. Pat Smith from Jocks, he joins us now.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday is happy hour from 3 to 6 with $1 off all draft meals, $5 off well drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and half off pretzel bites, mozzarella sticks, queso, corn dogs, and pickles. Then enjoy Friday night lights from 7 to closing. Dine in and buy 12 wings and get 5 regular wings for free. Come watch college football and every pro game on the weekends. All at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Highway 70. Fall is football.
Not sure how much you know about Progressive Insurance. You may know us for insuring your home and auto. You may know a couple of our commercials. But what you may not know is that since 2013, Progressive has been honoring veterans with vehicle donations through the annual Keys to Progress Veteran Vehicle Giveaway Program, giving back to those who gave so much. Now, you probably didn't wake up today saying, I really wish I knew more about Progressive Insurance, but this seemed like the type of thing people wouldn't mind hearing about. Find out more about how we're dedicated to our customers and communities at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Want to know what keeps central bankers up at night? The same thing that should be keeping you awake. America's massive debt. Right now, central banks worldwide are doing something unprecedented. They're buying gold at prices higher than ever before. These are the institutions that run the global financial system, and they're betting big on gold. The debt Trump's about to inherit isn't just a number, it's a warning sign. Think about it. The people who control the world's money are rushing to gold. Don't be the one who saw the signs but did nothing. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com now. When central banks speak, wise investors listen. Just visit noblegoldinvestments.com and use the promo code TRUMP, and you'll get up to 10 1-ounce silver Trump coins or a 10-ounce silver American flag bar with qualifying account. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
The holidays are near, and Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Generators is here to make this season extra cozy and cheerful. For the first 50 customers who purchase a new carrier system, tankless water heater, or a whole home generator, we have a special gift for you. Choose from a $500 gift card or 60 months no interest financing. And don't forget about Choate's Refer a Friend referral program, where you can earn up to $500. Simply refer a friend to use our services, and if they become a customer, you could earn up to a $500 Visa gift card. But hurry, this festive offer will only last through December 20th. Visit ChotesHVAC.com or call 347-8086 to schedule your free estimate today. And turn to the experts with Choates and let our family serve your family this holiday season.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Felix Cavalieri, founding member of the Rascals, will be performing with Six Wire, this year's AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and you'll want to be there too. You'll hear all the iconic hits at the President's Gala on December 26th at Peabody, and at halftime at the 66th AutoZone Liberty Bowl on December 27th. Get your tickets today by calling the AutoZone Liberty Bowl at 795-7700. The Tennessee Highway Safety Office reminds you that fans don't let fans drive drunk.
56 WHBQ Memphis and W253DF Memphis with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10. Now back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again are Brett Norsworthy and Brian Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we start our second hour, and we've got stoppage right now. Memphis, UConn, still 87-86. They're looking at the monitors. I believe already one technical foul has been given out to a UConn player, and we'll see what else comes from this. But a long stoppage in this game, 2:29 left, and UConn up by 1 point. But we got to talk college. Go ahead, Brett.
Brian, tell me how you saw it. I saw it as the UConn player being the aggressor and pushing the Memphis player on the Memphis end of the court, and then I saw referees separating, a few Memphis coaches to help separate non-aggressively, and then I saw Dan Hurley sprint from the other end of the court. Did you see it like that? I'm sorry, I raised my voice.
I did not. I was not still watching when Dan Hurley entered the picture, so I cannot comment on Dan Hurley's part of this. I do believe, and I don't know this, I have the sound off. Did Dane just get hit with a technical, or was it just one on the UConn player? Because
I've got volume down too.
They've shown Dane like 3 times now, and so I'm kind of worried that they might have teed up Dane Jones.
Well, that's a cop out if it is.
Definitely the one UConn player has gotten a technical. We'll kind of try to sort this out as they announce it, but I did not see the Hurley part of it, so I cannot comment one way or the other on Dan Hurley. But you're not a Dan Hurley fan. You've made that clear in the first hour of the show. But
great coach, though.
He's a great coach, but not a fan of him. Let's go ahead and talk some college football, though, as a lot going on in the world of the SEC. Pat Smith from Jocks in Birmingham joins us now. Pat, thanks so much for joining us. A lot to get to with you. Let's start, though, with the puzzling loss for Alabama on the road against an Oklahoma team that really has not impressed this year in conference play, but they were impressive Saturday night. 24-3, the win for Oklahoma. What did they do right? What went the right way for them to pull that big upset over Alabama?
Well, it helped them out that they had a bye week and not making excuses, but during the bye week, they were able to institute Vanderbilt's offense, and that Vanderbilt offense gave Alabama a world of trouble in Nashville earlier in the season. Walked out of there with a loss in Music City, first time that had happened in 40 years for Alabama. Listen, Oklahoma just took it to Alabama. I mean, there's no way, shape, or form to code it. It's what we talked about on my radio show today, that Alabama just did not show up to play. Offensively, they looked lethargic. Defense, they didn't have the answers. I know Kane Womack, the defense coordinator for Alabama today in his press conference, he pointed out that, hey, in the second half, Oklahoma only had 80-something yards of offense in the second half. We made adjustments. Well, by that time, your quarterback had already thrown a pick six, and your defense had already been gashed for more rushing yards than Oklahoma had seen all season long. So it was just an overall, just a terrible performance. A lot of questions today on my show in regards to this Alabama football team, because you had everything in front of you. You had a trip to Atlanta to play for the SEC title. You also had a cemented position in the college football playoff. That is out the door. So now it's bragging rights in regards to Alabama-Auburn, and for the second time in the last 3 years, this game has absolutely nothing to do with anything outside the borders of the state of Alabama. and that's shocking to a lot of people.
It really is, Pat, and for these big local rivalries, Egg and Iron, with the motivations by both of the favored teams and both of the home teams being Ole Miss and Alabama this year. You also, and this will get sorted out as the years go on with NIL and paying the players and motivations and transferring in and kind of the mercenary status of a lot of players. How much is it really going to mean to them? We know what it means to all those people in the fans. The red, white shakers, the orange and blue shakers, the maroon and the red and blue. We know what it means to them. But does that, to that player that now playoffs are out and the check's in, it's been deposited, Egg Bowl, Iron Bowl, how much do they care?
Brett, it's a great point. And the reason why is because, first and foremost, this is a situation that Alabama football has only been in only a handful of times since 2007. And so, Alabama's recruiting footprint expands well past the borders of the state of Alabama. So, you got a lot of California kids that play on the team. You got a bunch of kids from Texas. So needless to say, the Alabama-Auburn game to them might be just like playing South Carolina or playing Kentucky. In regards to it really doesn't mean a lot. Yeah, it's the next game on the schedule. But this is going to be a real test for this young coaching staff in Tuscaloosa because they've had adversity this year. And to their credit, they've been able to kind of circle the wagons, get this football team refocused. But I'm just going to tell you, for them to go to Norman, Oklahoma, and to lose to a team that had not beaten an FBS opponent since September, only the second win all season long in the SEC, you got to raise yourself a lot of questions about what they're doing, trying to get these kids ready for football games on Saturday. So it is going to be something to behold this weekend because Auburn now has momentum by beating Texas A&M in quadruple overtime. You've got players mouthing off today down at Auburn. You got freshman Cam Coleman and you got Riddick, the linebacker. They're talking about how Jalen Milroe's nothing and Ryan Williams is nothing. So we'll see. We'll see if they care about this game enough to go out there and really get after it in the Iron Bowl. It should be fun to see.
Yeah. I think we already knew this, but the smartest man in college football continues to be Nick Saban. He got out at a perfect time. Let's say he comes back and everything that's happened in Alabama's 8-3 going into the Iron Bowl. It doesn't dent up his legacy, but that's not how he wanted to go out. He went out in the national semifinals, losing a heartbreaker at the Rose Bowl. The greats all have the great timing, don't they?
No, they really do. And one thing's for sure that, and Brett, you touched on it. It's not Alabama. It's a Georgia. It's every school in America because we obviously power to the players, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm behind that 100%.
Me too.
But now you will not have the opportunities, whether it's a Tennessee or Alabama or Georgia, where you can take, let's say, a 5-star that maybe he just doesn't have the mental makeup or maybe the physicality to contribute to your football team, but you're able to have him in your stable and you're able to literally develop him as a football player. Nowadays, that's out the window because the moment that somebody's going to start looking at a roster and they're going to go, okay, you've been a 2 all year long on this Alabama football team. You've barely seen the field unless it's a blowout. You can come to school X and we will pay you like a first stringer, and you don't have to sit there behind somebody else, and you get playing time. There is no more of the Alabamas and the Auburns and everybody else being able to, have these guys that you can kind of plug in immediately when attrition and injuries happen. You saw it with Georgia this year. They had a tough schedule, but the injuries that they've had, it's been tougher for them to overcome. Alabama has had the same situation. So, listen, the other schools in America, they're not going to shed a tear for the upper echelon for having to go through this type of stuff. But it's going to make, as a whole, college football a little bit weaker, especially since now you're adding extra games on the schedule with the extended playoff.
Mm-hmm. Well, how would you grade Kalen DeBoer in year one? Because we were talking about it earlier.
We'll get grade books out next week.
We sure will, but we won't be able to talk to Pat when we do it.
That's
so
right.
I got to get it now. I know things can change based on what happens this weekend, but you look at what the season has been. But it felt like from the start an impossible task to take over after Nick Saban.
I give him a C- right now, and And listen, and maybe that's not harsh enough. And
do we tell him, Bryant? Do we tell him?
No, I think we just let him have
Pat on this show, no pluses, no minuses, flat letter grades only.
Okay, all right. Well, then if that's the place, then I got to give him a D.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because you lose to Vandy for the first time in 40 years. You shot yourself in the foot numerous times at Tennessee. You could have very easily walked out of there with a win. You did not.
All the penalties at Knoxville.
Yes, you were shocked and ran out of the field in Norman to a MASH unit. Let's just be honest. I mean, from their offensive line, wide receivers, everybody was out for that game. You also keep in mind that DeBoer inherited an Heisman Trophy finalist. You had multiple potential NFL first-rounders on this team. You had plenty of 5 stars and talent on the roster. One thing's for sure, Nick Saban, he did walk away, but he left plenty of talent. This team have underachieved. That's been a problem. And based on the fact that you have not been able to take care of business in 2 of the 3 losses, listen, if he was walking into the Iron Bowl with 3 losses, we might go, okay, who were the 3 losses? And probably at the beginning of the season, you would have said, okay, you got to go to Georgia, you got to go to Baton Rouge, you got to go to Tennessee. Okay, we'll say those 3. But to say that you lost to Vanderbilt and an Oklahoma team that only had 1 SEC win and was fighting for their bowl life, yeah, that's a disaster.
Facts.
And this offense, and this offense has just been too helter-skelter. So, yeah, I mean, whether he wins or loses, I think any Alabama fan is going to tell you at best it would be a C if you beat Auburn. But if you lose to Auburn, you might be talking about an F, no lie, because you're looking at an 8-4 record on a team that should be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, it would be. Pat Smith from Jocks with us on our Sissy's Log Cabin guest line talking college football. And, Pat, Ole Miss, the balloon officially completely burst Saturday down in the Swamp. I do think Billy Napier has reestablished the Swamp as a tough place to play, but I don't think Florida is a particularly great team, and I know Kentucky's not, and now in the end it is proving to be that LSU is not. That's the 3 Ole Miss losses. Bryant, I love to talk about water finding its level. And that's a fancy way to put you eventually become who you are. And your record is what it says it is. And Ole Miss record is 8 wins and 3 losses. In the year of years, in the Go For It year, the Last Dance year, they're not going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to go to a bowl game that they thought was unimaginable in August. And Pat, I roundly refute anybody suggesting a 3-loss team from the SEC in the playoffs. 3 losses, I think you've eliminated yourself.
No, listen, you're absolutely right, and like you, Brett, I was as shocked as anyone. Did I think that Florida was going to give them a game? Absolutely, and the reason why, and I kind of equate it to what we were talking about the Oklahoma game. When you watch an Oklahoma football team as bad as that season has been for them, nobody quit on Brent Venables' football team, and you knew that Alabama was going to get a heck of a shot coming on Saturday night, and you watch the Florida Gators. Even back when Georgia, I mean, that score was not indicative against the Bulldogs of what that Florida team, if Lagway would have stayed in the game, I'm not saying they would have won it, but that game would have been a whole heck of a lot more interesting in the fourth quarter if he had been. And just seeing them down the stretch, especially even against, LSU, just how well they played and how hard they fought. I knew that this was going to be a game. It was going to be tough for Ole Miss. And then, unfortunately, for some of the things that Lane Kiffin did on 3rd and 4th down, and where's Ulysses Bentley the fourth? Those type questions. And
where's Caden Prieskorn?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's just a lot of questions about that game that, unfortunately, and until he can prove other people wrong, that is always going to be the monkey on the back of Lane Kiffin, that he will find a way to mess up success, and that's exactly what took place down in Gainesville, Florida. It's very disappointing because I thought Ole Miss handled the transfer portal beautifully. I thought the people of the state of Mississippi and the supporters of the Ole Miss Rebel football team has done an incredible job building up the NIL, because everybody else in the conference would love to have what the Grove has in regards to the NIL. But unfortunately, the players just did not show up, and the coaches also let them down on Saturday.
Yeah.
Do you think the Ole Miss material, the Ole Miss roster, correctly rated, overrated, a little underrated? What your evaluation of the Ole Miss key portal additions?
To me, the defense was outstanding. I mean, you can't – I mean, I'm a stat guy like you are, Brett, and when you look at the domination that defensive front had, I mean, listen, all those dudes were brought into the transfer portal. I think offensively there were enough injuries. Brett, you could speak about this way more educatedly than I can in regards to what injuries did to that offensive side of the ball for the Rebels. It looked like that they were kind of swimming in molasses till Arkansas, and they finally found their footing offensively. But defensively, it was the real deal. And I just think that, unfortunately, in this day and age, like you brought up before, Brett, it's a situation with these players, and it's so tough now each week in and week out, especially in this conference, going up against somebody. And if you don't bring your A game, the Kentuckys, the Oklahomas, and the Vanderbilts of the world are going to get up, and they're going to be able to beat you. And that's exactly what happened to Ole Miss this year.
And you can be the portal king all you want, but over the course of the year and in key moments in games, you got to be the chemistry king.
Yes, and that's the whole key. I mean, you remember back when anybody came in as a new head coach back in the old days in the SEC, you might have a few guys say, you know what, I'm going to go the JUCO route. I'm going to go grab all these, former 5 stars that couldn't make it somewhere, but you know what, they're doing great at East Mississippi Community College, and I'm going to bring them in.
That, frankly, was somebody else's problem.
Exactly. But most of the time, what happened? Those kids would come to campus, and they did not gel well with those kids that were high school recruits. And so now you're having to try to really roll the dice with these kids, not from a talent standpoint, but you bring in so many guys from the transfer portal. If these guys aren't completely happy and that chemistry is not there, then you're going to have a problem. And I'm not saying that's what the problem was at Ole Miss, but as you kind of dissect what went right and what went wrong with this season for Ole Miss, I think at the end of the day, there was potentially not a locker room problem, but maybe a chemistry problem that they were unable to get the most out of who they got. But one thing's for sure, he's done a heck of a job getting talent to Ole Miss. Now it's just a case of him not screwing it up from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pat, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and let's do this again soon.
Absolutely, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holiday.
Thank you so much, Pat. Same to you and yours. Thank you so much. Pat Smith with us from WJOX down in Birmingham. It's final in Maui, and it's officially the biggest Penny Hardaway win in his tenure as head coach of the Tigers, winning 99-97 in overtime, and it got into overtime, and UConn drew that first blood, and it looked weak at points, and then my man Dan Hurley gets a technical and helps out.
Yeah, he finally got the technical that
Thank
you'd
you, Dan.
been asking for, and it was the difference maker because the Tigers at the free throw line were as solid as you could be today. And so, going up instead of just shooting 2 free throws because he was upset about a foul, instead of just taking on 2, they got 4, and they were able to knock all 4 of them down to give them a 4-point lead with less than a minute. But that game felt like it lasted 6 hours. That was the longest game I've ever seen in my life. I mean, maybe just
pushing every bit of 3 hours.
Yeah, maybe it was because of how stressed I was.
I want to apologize earlier. I misspoke. I said Carlos Rogers when I meant Colby Rogers. I'm very sorry for that. And he had 19 today, 5 of 9 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3-point line, and was really solid. Mm-hmm. The Tigers with 30 rebounds to 33 for UConn, to only lose the rebounding margin by 3 to that big, long, all-airport, NBA-size type team, really terrific. And even in overtime, in overtime, you got nothing from Haggerty. He was out of the game, and nothing from Hunter.
Yeah, and so I thought it was impressive how they were able to win that game. You mentioned it, Haggerty on the bench, Nicholas Jourdain on the bench. Both those guys out, and you were still able to pull out that win. I thought, P.J. Carter knocked down some massive free throws when he had to step up to the line. Colby Rogers knocked down some free throws as well and knocked down some shots. So, a really solid game. And, you look at it, and, Haggerty with 22, Rogers with 19, Hunter with 26 leading the team, and then Dane Danger coming off the bench and giving you some big minutes in that overtime period with 14. So, that was a really good performance by a lot of those guys that you brought in to be big-time players.
901-360-8255. Hit us up. Do you think that's the biggest win of the Penny Hardaway years? We know it's the biggest win not only for the Tigers this year, but around college basketball. That's the biggest win to date in a still very young college basketball season, but to defeat the back-to-back national champions UConn, and to do it in overtime when everybody was feeling wobbly going to overtime.
Yeah, I mean, when they didn't foul at the end of that regulation and UConn knocks down that three, you didn't know what to expect. I mean, it didn't feel like all the momentum was on the side of UConn, and certainly being the back-to-back national champions, you didn't know what to expect. And so for the Tigers to, just stay locked in and not get too high or too low.
Nothing
when you
flukish
go to
either.
the overtime. No,
Tigers were better.
They played really, really well today. It was certainly the best performance this season with a team that I think has surpassed anybody's expectations already through 5 games, certainly being 5-0. But, the way they've played these games, they've looked really, really solid. So a big-time game, I thought it was going to get a little kind of the same in that overtime. It didn't look like they were going to foul as UConn came down with, only trailing by 3.
We all thought it. Let's be honest. We all were scared in overtime.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm saying like in the last couple seconds when they're up 3 and for whatever reason they weren't going for the foul, and I was like, why are we not fouling? You're up 3, foul the shooter, and ultimately they went for a steal and they called the foul, so they were able to send UConn to the line and pick up a really, really big win. Now we'll see this next game, Michigan State and Colorado. The Tigers will play the winner tomorrow afternoon. So being on the winner side, it's fun. It's going to be a lot of really good opponents on this side of the bracket in Maui.
Help me with these times. The Tigers will get the winner of Colorado and Michigan State, and that game will be tomorrow at
I
noon?
couldn't tell you. I haven't seen the bracket past today, so I'm trying to pull it up right now. But let's see.
Well, these bracket's a Sudoku puzzle.
Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, at 1 o'clock their time.
What? Okay, okay. So
So
in
it'll be 5
parentheses is Eastern time.
Yes.
Okay, so tomorrow at 5, the Tigers will play the winner of Colorado and Michigan State. How about that?
Yeah. So we'll watch this next game and see who the Tigers play. I feel even going into the UConn game, I felt very confident whoever they saw in the second game, Colorado or Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State is as good of a team as kind of that brand is under Izzo and a tremendous coach, but I just don't love this team this year. Colorado lost a ton. They were a really good team last year, had I think 3 guys that are now in the NBA, lost all of those guys, and so a much different team. I would think if I had to pick this game, you're probably seeing Michigan State tomorrow, which, I mean, what a 3 days that will be, where you're going to see UConn the first game, Michigan State the second game, and then day 3, one of probably Auburn, Iowa State, North Carolina. I doubt you see Dayton. I think North Carolina beats Dayton this afternoon. We could see Dayton, maybe, but you're going to see 2 really, really good teams the next 2 days.
3 days that could potentially completely turn around any narrative, any idea around Coach Penny Hardaway. The idea of wins over Hurley, tomorrow Izzo, and maybe in the finals against Bruce Pearl. Woo.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be huge. And I think, Darian and I were talking about it earlier, if I remember correctly, and we were kind of saying, Penny Hardaway, especially last year, especially late last year, it was really tight and, kind of probably said some things that he'd probably like to take back, but there was something that happened this offseason. It was very late in the offseason, late in the summer, where it felt like, something shifted, and it was
right, with the axing of the staff.
Yeah, and it felt like, maybe a couple weeks after that, he kind of, talks to the media, and you're like, okay, and I think he said in that press conference, I wish I had done some things differently last year. I wish I would have, said some things differently, and so it just felt like a more locked in, let's get to work Penny Hardaway, and he brought in guys that feel like they're ready to work, and kind of going back to what I've said a lot about this team, I think we were all a little worried and a little scarred about, hey, here we go again, replacing pretty much a whole roster, a lot of guys. And, last year you brought in a lot of new faces, and, ultimately they didn't like each other. They didn't like playing with each other, and especially late in conference play, they were all on completely different pages. And what is this team going to look like now when you're bringing in a lot of new faces? But it feels like this year it was the right guys. It was the guys that like to play together. They can play off each other. They don't care about, today's Haggerty and today was Hunter, not Haggerty, but the game before was Haggerty, and maybe next game will be Danger. It feels like they all want each other to eat, and I think that's the biggest thing because you didn't see that with last year's team.
Memphis Tigers moved to 5-0 with that win, and also for the year 5-0 against the point spread. I was out Friday, so I didn't get to weigh in about the San Francisco win. Now that's kind of lost in everything else. That was a great win.
It's a huge win.
That will really hold up on Selection Sunday, but today will go a long way. Today we did Tiger Bankroll off there, and this is the read of it, fresh off the presses. You ready?
There we go.
Connor lost. He had UConn.
Wow.
Darian for 75. Oof. Darian W. had the Tigers, wins 25. Bryant W. has his alma mater, the Tigers, wins 15. Me, continuing with my 1-4 start on the Tigers.
Brett.
They're 5-0 against the spread, and I've been going against them a lot except for the UNLV game, and I lose again 25 today to UConn.
Wow. Ooh, Brett. Not good. Not good at all.
I'm down to 800. The season's barely started.
Long season. Brett, we got 2 more games before
I got to start finessing cash, don't I?
Well, you maybe might have to call Darian and see if you can hold some money from him. I don't know.
Really? Darian, good W for him. He's at 11.25 for the year and 4-1 picking the Tigers this year.
Yeah.
His domination continues.
Oh, man. Just
his only weak spot was preseason AAC picks.
It feels like, I don't know, it's the recent run of producers we've had where Darian
Landon
was
joining
really
in.
good.
That's what you got to keep up.
You know, Johnny was so good with picks before he left. So,
Johnny was marvelous in
oh,
the
man.
tournament. That's one of the best looking brackets I had ever seen going into the Final Four.
It'd make me so mad. Come here, I've never picked before. I've never done a bracket before.
Didn't know how to do it,
man. I get it.
Thanks, Johnny.
I don't need to hear it.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel worse. But no, a big time win for the Memphis Tigers, and I think maybe good for the Tigers. Great win, but I think the biggest thing, the best thing to come from that is how long that game was. We are going to get some late night hoops tonight for Dayton
that's
and North
right, because it kicks back everything.
10:30 was when it's supposed to start, but now we're talking 11:30, midnight maybe.
11. What if these others?
Exactly. We don't even know what's going to happen. We got 2 games before then, Brett. Oh man, I can't wait.
And there's already one game that was starting, maybe even after that, somewhere tonight.
I love it.
Or was that the last game scheduled?
I think that's
tonight?
the last game tonight. Maybe tomorrow night there might be a later one, but
there's no chance they tip that before 11:30.
I love it. I don't think so. I love it. I might be worthless tomorrow, but I'll be watching.
Like me sitting on the tarmac in Gainesville Saturday for 3 hours.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. But hey, at least they figured it out. We
had good cheeseburgers.
That's great.
Somebody bought a big old sack of cheeseburgers.
Oh man, how nice! Get a little cheeseburger while you wait. But let's go ahead and get to a break. When we come back, we got to talk more SEC football. A busy weekend. When we come back, we'll talk about all of them during the Sissy's Log Cabin. Look back at the weekend in the SEC.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Wherever you are, stay tuned in to real sports talk. Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Moving is stressful, but Black Tie Moving can take the worry out of the process. Whether you're moving across town or across country, moving your home or your office, your personal moving concierge from Black Tie Moving will work with you to design a plan that perfectly fits your budget and needs. And they're available 24/7 to answer any questions you have. Give Black Tie Moving a call at 901-316-6196 or go to blacktiemoving.com/Memphis to get your personal, no obligation quote from the moving experts at Black Tie Moving.
The 2025 Range Rover Sport sits right at the heart of the Land Rover lineup, offering a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility. Smaller and more agile than a full-size Range Rover, it's a great option for everyone who wants luxury and practicality. Every model comes with 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive standard. Whether you navigate city streets or tackle rough terrain, Range Rover Sport has you covered. Every drive is powerful and breathtaking. The 2025 Range Rover Sport is the epitome of sporty luxury. Test drive one at Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City.
Not sure how much you know about Progressive Insurance. You may know us for insuring your home and auto. You may know a couple of our commercials. But what you may not know is that since 2013, Progressive has been honoring veterans with vehicle donations through the annual Keys to Progress Veteran Vehicle Giveaway Program, giving back to those who gave so much. Now, you probably didn't wake up today saying, I really wish I knew more about Progressive Insurance, but this seemed like the type of thing people wouldn't mind hearing about. Find out more about how we're dedicated to our customers and communities at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Since 1948, in the alley, the Rendezvous. I'm with John Burgess. John, what's going on in the Rendezvous? Brett, after 76 years, we've decided to expand our product line. Anyone who's tasted our ribs is familiar with our vinegar base. It's now available in a 32-ounce jar. It's so good to base or marinate all meats. I even put a little bit on turnip greens. Something we've been using at the restaurant or our house has been the Greek seasoning. My father was a cook, but my mother was a chef. And she was the one that put Greek seasoning on everything from a Mediterranean diet or steak. My mom used it on soup, salad, veggies, fish, any meats. It's a great seasoning and a flavor enhancer. My brother Nick figured out salt and pepper was more than just McCormick's and Morton's. He's come up with the perfect blend we use to coat our shoulders and our brisket, and he used to make it for his friends as Christmas gifts, and they loved it. All these products are available at the Rendezvous or online for shipping as gifts and in many grocery stores. And if they're not in your favorite grocery store, ask your grocer to stock it. A beloved family affair is still going strong since 1948. The Rendezvous.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. We've had to deal with a couple of accidents out here the last 15-20 minutes. It's been a little bit busy from that earlier wreck we had on 240 southbound near South Parkway. Trying to get out of the Midtown area is already cranking up this time of the afternoon. It's gotten heavier over here with a little bit more volume on 240 east from Mill Branch out to 385 Bill Morris Parkway. Plenty of radar out here, folks. You're going to see a lot more of that over the next 48 hours. Shop now and save during this holiday season. Where? Weimer's Jewelry, located 7525 Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Time for a look back at the weekend in the SEC. Brought to you by Sissy's Log Cabin, the official jeweler of the Memphis Grizzlies with 9,000 square foot in Laurelwood. Let's go inside the SEC with Bryant and Brett.
Chad Kelly in the gun formation. 3rd and inches for Ole Miss.
Carlton will kick it. It is on the way, and it is up. Buck Bellew looking at it, going to pitch it to Herschel Walker, try to get him outside. He's going to get 5.
The snap is high. Kelly grabs it, wants to throw, fires it up in the air. Treadwell can't get it. It is good! Oh, my! Get a deflection is caught! Deflection is caught! And down the sidelines is Attaboy Joe. He's to the end zone. He's in there. Touchdown, Ole Miss.
He's got 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. He needs a block. There goes Herschel. There goes Herschel.
And you can wrap this one in maroon and white, my friends.
Arkansas is headed to Atlanta.
The national champion is clad in big orange.
Bryant, you know how very cold-natured I am. I may be the first human to ever go to Florida and be cold.
Really?
It was frigid to start today, Saturday morning.
What was the temperature?
Well, like 46, 47.
Well, I mean, that's cold. I mean, I believe it. I'm with you. I'm the same. We're very similar in that. If it's like under 70, probably 70, I'm cold. I'm very cold.
I was freezing to death pregame. It got started early, and the early game kicking in Florida at noontime. But here, 11 o'clock, Florida wins the game 24-17 over Ole Miss. Don't know if Florida is back, but for the last 2 weeks, the Swamp has definitely been back. Jackson Dart, 24 of 41, had the 2 critical late-game interceptions, trying to make something happen. DJ Lagway, the freshman, you were expecting him to turn it over, but he didn't. Ole Miss has been bad in short yardage all year, 3 for 14 on 3rd down in short yardage. You know, now when J.J. Pegues comes in, 90,000 people knows who's getting the football. Late in the year to try to find a run game. And DJ Lagway, 10 of 17 for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception. And that was a great play by John Saunders on that interception. Montrell Johnson, 107 rushing for the Gators this week. Florida at Tallahassee for the state championship in that one. And for Ole Miss, Friday afternoon, the Egg Bowl in Oxford.
Yeah, and, it's a lot different feeling for that game, the Egg Bowl, after this result and with Florida getting that win. But I thought you made a really good point. What the Swamp is starting to get back to with what they've done this year, I think, is definitely the boost that they needed going into this offseason. Because, before the season, nobody had very big expectations for Florida at all. And I think, we talk about kind of that identity, that logo, that brand, and you don't want to settle for anything if you're Florida. But I think, getting to a bowl game this year, I think is, a step, try to get back in that right direction. And certainly with the last 2 weeks and the wins they've gotten, has definitely been huge to try to bring that atmosphere back to what it was, 10, 15 years ago. But, a really good game for Florida, another win, but you mentioned it. When your quarterback's the leading rusher by such a wide margin, that's not a great thing. No. They haven't been able to establish a run game at all this season, and that's really what hurt them. We know, they get the opportunity late. Jackson Dart, unfortunately, with 2 interceptions down the stretch, and you could see it, just his body language. They showed him on television. He was crushed, and it was hard to listen to him after the game and in post game. But it's hard being a quarterback in that position with all that weight and all the eyes on you. But I thought handled it as well as you could after the game, talking to media. But good win for Florida. On the other side, for Ole Miss, you didn't want to pick up that third loss. You had 2 more games, try to get 2 more wins, and unfortunately couldn't get it over Florida.
And, Bryant, the new tradition between the third and fourth quarter at the Swamp of Tom Petty, don't back down.
Yeah.
It is so fun to be there and experience it. They have tapped into something. Georgia wins 59-17 over UMass. UMass outrushed Georgia, but 550 total yards for the Dogs. They made it look easy in the second half. Only 1 penalty for Georgia, 2 turnovers for UMass. Carson Beck, 20 of 31, 297, 4 touchdowns. And Nate Frazier, 136 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns. Arian Smith in the receiving game for the Dogs, he got 107 and a touchdown. This week, clean old-fashioned hate at Sanford Stadium as the Dogs host the Rambling Wreck.
Yeah, how about UMass? A 7-0 lead to start the game, and I'm sure they were going, let's end it now.
Screenshot those pictures of the scoreboard.
Yes, get them while you can, because after that, very quickly, Georgia turned it on. They flipped that switch in the second quarter, never looked back. Real easy win for them. Carson Beck has been so up and down this year, but 297, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Against an opponent like that, that's what you wanted to see him do, and he was able to do it.
56-zip, Tennessee over UTEP. Nico with 4 touchdowns and a warm-up for Vandy. And maybe for the playoffs, Tennessee, the onslaught was on. Scoreless first quarter, but then the onslaught was on in the second and third. This week, Tennessee at Vandy at 11 o'clock Saturday morning in Nashville.
Yeah, maybe the happiest fan base of the weekend, Tennessee fans, with the win over UTEP. But it was a much different conversation last week. We were kind of talking about, that loss for Tennessee's not great. Are they going to be able to get in? And
how about the Tennessee fans doing the gator chop with the scoreboard, watching it and kneeling?
And I saw a video of they showed one of the plays and the score at State and the reaction from
the largest ovation of the year at State.
That's right, yes. A team that's not playing for anything, but that made their day and their season seeing that. But yes, Tennessee did what they need to do against a really bad UTEP team. Now they got to do what they have to do against Vanderbilt, and it's not going to be easy. Vanderbilt's played well this season. That entire fan base, that entire student population, they're going to be out and trying to make that a really intense atmosphere for Tennessee this weekend.
Texas wins 31-14 over Kentucky. Kentucky finishes with one SEC win. Impossible to ever overcome that for Ole Miss. 21 yards rushing for Kentucky, 36 yards in penalties. They had 15 less rushing yards than they had yards in penalties. 3 of 7 for 51 yards for Brock Vandegrift. Pulled. Already announced that he won't start the Governor's Cup this week. That's where they will play this week. Texas will be at Kyle Field. Kentucky will be at home Saturday against U of L.
Yeah, I still don't know what to think about this Texas team. I mean, they keep winning games, but none of it. It's kind of the same conversation a lot of people are having with Kansas City. Is they're winning all these games? They've only got one loss in the season.
It
for
is
so
the
long.
object, though.
They were undefeated. Yes, and so it's they're a good team. They're winning games, but they're not coming in stylish fashion by any means, and able to pull away. Tacked on a late touchdown to make it look even better. But this was a close game, and it never felt like Kentucky was going to win this. But certainly, if you were a betting person and you took Kentucky, it really never felt like Texas was going to cover this game. And so good for Texas. They're 10-1. They feel very safe in the playoffs right now with only one game left on the schedule. But just like everybody else, if you're Texas, you can't kind of take your foot off the gas now. You got to go out there and continue to win these games.
South Carolina 56-12 over Wofford, and Lenore Sellers will officially enter next year as the number one quarterback in the SEC. 307 with 3 touchdowns, only 4 incompletions, 608 total yards offense for South Carolina. And now this week, their state championship game at the other Death Valley against Clemson. And if South Carolina wins that one, they will be saying we're the 9-3 team that needs to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and South Carolina, against a team like Wofford, but the Lenore Sellers this year, the improvements from game to game that you've seen from him
since the Ole Miss
game. Yeah,
game.
he is night and day a completely different player than what we saw earlier this season. Really looked good, like you mentioned, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Really got it done with his arm.
Arkansas wins 35-14 in Fayetteville over Louisiana Tech. 2 touchdowns rushing, 2 passing for Taylor Green. They get that win over La Tech and bowl eligibility, and maybe the Liberty Bowl again for Arkansas and Sam Pittman. 4 out of 5 years of bowl eligibility. Year 1, COVID. The Music City Bowl got scrapped. Year 2, they go to the Tampa Bowl and destroyed Penn State. Year 3, won here against KU. Last year, no bowl, but back in a bowl this year for the Razorbacks. 235 yards rushing to 57 for Louisiana Tech. Arkansas in Columbia Saturday in a game that they're trying to make into a rivalry, and nobody cares about it.
Yeah, nobody really cares for that to be a rivalry game on their schedule. But, hey, the SEC certainly trying to force it down the fans' throats. But, no, good for Arkansas to get bowl eligible in this season because, last year was a really bad season. And then kind of coming into this year, it was, all right, what can Arkansas be? Is this the end of the road? Is there going to be a lot of changes coming to this football team after this year? But they go out there, they're able to get bowl eligible, they're able to pull off some big wins this season, 3-4 in conference play. It includes that big win over Tennessee. So, a good year. We'd been talking to Ty all season. I've kind of asked him multiple times, what is it going to take for Sam Pittman to keep his job at Arkansas? And he's remained the exact same all year long. They get to a bowl game, he's good. And now they're to a bowl game, and we'll see what that means for Sam Pittman.
Mizzou winners 39-20 at Starkville against State. Brady Cook, 15 of 20, 268, 1 touchdown. Luther Burden, 7 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Mizzou, 11 of 18 on 3rd down, only punted twice. Michael Van Buren has really gotten better as the year has progressed for Mississippi State. And I think there will be a lot of people coming after him in the portal. Dogs are going to have to dig deep to keep him. Only 22 rushing attempts for State. They had to go really all passing. Saturday, Mizzou host Arkansas in something called the borderline rivalry. State is at Ole Miss in something called the Egg Bowl.
Yes. One, I think, speaks a lot louder than the other, is a much bigger game than the other one. But, no, you mentioned it. Van Buren's been really good and has improved all season long. I think he's going to be a name, if he does enter the portal after this year, that a lot of schools are going to be giving him a call. And on the other side, from Missouri, this team has so many weapons, especially in that receivers room. They've got so many playmakers. Burden, one of them, and he had the big game, 91 yards and a touchdown on 7 receptions. So I feel like this Missouri team, we all kind of thought they would make a run this year, but that defense kind of let them down throughout the year. And another one of those 3-loss SEC teams.
OU 24-3 over Bama. We talked about that a lot with Pat Smith. Bama now 1-3 in SEC road games this year. Coach Nick Saban lost 3 SEC road games total in his last 3 years. OU storms the field. Who doesn't when they beat Bama? And I can't blame them. They had two players go over 100 yards, the running back and their quarterback. For Jalen Milroe, it was bad. When he's good, he's good.
Yeah.
When he's bad, it shows. And now this week, Iron Bowl for Bama and OU at LSU.
Yeah, this all came down to Milroe. Just a really, really bad game for him. 3 interceptions. They couldn't get the run
money.
game. Yeah, it did. But, 70 yards rushing for Alabama. They couldn't get anything going. On the other side, Oklahoma, they were ready off the bye week. They were ready for this game.
Auburn 43-41 in the game of the day. 4 overtimes on the Plains.
Cow.
Auburn fans, they stormed the field. Who does that after a win over A&M? I guess Auburn does.
Yeah.
301 yards passing for Peyton Thorne, 3 touchdowns for Jarquez Hunter, 933 combined total yards, 50 first downs. Iron Bowl for Auburn Tigers, A&M at home in the biggest game at Kyle Field ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that game was crazy. You mentioned it, 4 overtimes. I still am not a fan of the alternating 2-point conversions once we get to the third overtime. But, hey, I'm not going to be able to argue that away. But, it was fun. Both teams making plays late, and ultimately it was Auburn that gets the job done.
And the last game of the night, 24-17, LSU down in Baton Rouge over Vanderbilt. LSU, really offensive domination. Diego Pavia was just good, while Garrett Nussmeier was really, really, really good. 332 yards and a touchdown for Nussmeier and no interceptions. That was important for him. This week, Vandy plays at home against Tennessee and LSU at home against Oklahoma.
Yeah, Nussmeier needed that game. Not a great game last week from him, but bounces back with a really good one on Saturday against Vanderbilt. And now, like you mentioned, big game for Vanderbilt against the Volunteers.
That's our look back at the weekend in the SEC, brought to you every week by Sissy's Log Cabin, the official jeweler of the Memphis Grizzlies, huge supporters of the hometown teams, including Tiger Athletics. And every Monday we look back at the SEC at 4:30. Brought to you by Sissy's Log Cabin, that great location at 4542 Poplar, 9,000 square feet, with expanded lines for Rolex, Cartier, diamonds, and more. The Mid-South's largest selection of one-of-a-kind jewelry. It's jewelry time of year, and engagement rings, wedding bands, necklaces, and earrings since 1970, with all the great locations across the Mid-South. Official jeweler for the Memphis Grizzlies and FedEx Forum with the floor seat lounge. Unsurpassed value, exceptional service, expansive selection, and an extraordinary shopping experience, because life's too short for ordinary jewelry.
Well, let's get to another break, and when we come back, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
You or someone you know or care about has dealt with a difficult divorce. When facing divorce, you need the attorneys at Rice Law. Nick and Larry Rice lead the firm with 3 generations and 7 decades of experience. Located in Memphis, serving the entire state of Tennessee and North Mississippi. Rice Law is who you need to call. Simple or difficult divorce, they know how to handle it. Call Rice Law at 901-526-6701, or for more information, visit them at aboutdivorce.com. That's aboutdivorce.com.
Designer settings.
This is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a Mother Pheasant Plucker, I plug Mother Pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Fiveash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. 5-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
5-Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Hungry for that delicious smash burger flavor? Dyer's Cafe is the original smash burger since 1912 and still smashing burgers in Collier's historic town square. Come out for their lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 to 2. Ask about their world-famous split dog and authentic Chicago or New York dog. Try the leaner side of Dyer's with a grilled chicken sandwich or freshly made salad. Also serving lakes, Delta-raised catfish, Pasquale's tamales, and a customer favorite hand-breaded onion rings. Dyer's, serving world-famous burgers, dogs, and shakes in Collier's historic town square.
When you think about insurance and you want great value without sacrificing great service, I want you to think one place, the Eflin Insurance and the entire Eflin Insurance team. Matt and his group of professionals will access 10 leading companies to find the right home and auto program that fits your budget and your absolute needs. The Eflin Insurance team, the number 386-GER, 386-4777.
Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again are Brett Norsworthy and Brian Davis.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
Well, Brett, my big number today is the number 29. The Memphis Tigers have improved to number 29 on KenPom.com. Now, I have to use that because obviously we have to wait until AP poll. A lot's going to happen before then. So KenPom already updating
means
it.
more.
Yeah, it 100% does, especially when it comes to brackets and all of that good stuff. But the Tigers, they're now 5-0. Let's look at some of the things and where they rank. Right now, like I mentioned, 29th in the country. UConn falls to number 6. And I think more importantly, UConn was, I believe, number 6 in adjusted defensive efficiency going into this game. They now drop to number 30 in the country after that game against the Tigers. Tigers offense improves to number 25 in adjusted offensive efficiency. They go to number 47 in adjusted defensive efficiency. But you look at field goals attempted, they are number 9 in the country in that. And they're getting to the line a lot, so that does not surprise me. And it feels like you're going to see a lot of that this season. Haggerty getting to the free throw line like he did late in this one. And still, number 2 in the country in three-point percentage. They continue to knock down threes. And you saw some big threes knocked down today with what Hunter did in that game and even Colby Rogers knocking down 3. So that's combined between those two guys. 10 three-pointers, those two guys combined. 10 for 16 from behind the arc. That's good shooting from those two guys.
Brian, help me well on the KenPom defensive efficiency metric numbers. Is that just for the regulation, or does overtime factor in as well? Because there'll be plenty to go say, yeah, but UConn gave up 99 in overtime. It was 82 in regulation.
Yeah, I think it takes in. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure it takes in. It accounts for the entire game. So I believe
that really stings.
I do believe overtime's included because that's a big drop. So I would think overtime is included in that.
99-97, Tigers win in overtime over mighty UConn. My big number is 2. I'm going to start with the 8 teams in Maui. But going into start of play today, there were a combined, out of the 8 teams in Maui going into the bracket today, 2 losses. It was 4-0 Memphis, 4-0 UConn, 4-0 Colorado, 4-1 Michigan State, 4-0 Auburn, 3-0 Iowa State, 5-0 Dayton, and 3-1 North Carolina. The 2 losses, Kansas beat Michigan State, and Kansas beat North Carolina. So all of Maui was undefeated going into today unless you played Kansas.
Wow. And now, unless you played Memphis.
That's right.
How about that?
That's a pretty good league to be in.
It's a really good league to be in.
What a great win.
A really good side of the bracket to be in, because you look at the rest. I mean, the possibilities of seeing, Izzo and Michigan State tomorrow, and the possibility of seeing either one of, on day 3, one of Iowa State, Auburn, or North Carolina. And North Carolina team that you saw in an exhibition just a few weeks ago. I mean, this was a huge win for Penny Hardaway, a huge win for that team. And, it kind of goes back to what we were saying. This is a veteran-led team of, guys that have been on some big-time teams and big-time moments. And, they came here, and it feels like they're, putting egos aside and saying, let's go out and win games. And that's what they've done so far.
And only had 21 team fouls for the Tigers. That's playing defense without foul. I know Haggerty fouled out, but didn't have anybody else do that in a 45-minute game.
Jourdain. You had 2 guys.
Oh, Jourdain did as well. Okay. Also for the Tigers, only 13 turnovers against that experience, that type of team that just has taken people out systematically the last few years.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to those 2 guys that you have, for the most part, bringing the ball up. It's Hunter and it's Haggerty, and those 2 guys are, one of them's a veteran that has been at a couple different stops before Memphis, but he's been around the college game and has played in some big-time games. He's not going to, throw that long pass and force that turnover. I can't remember if he was the one that threw the one out of bounds before the big 3. But, you've got that guy, and you got a guy like P.J. Haggerty that is still a young player, but, feels like has that, ability, that IQ to not go out there and force a lot of turnovers. So you've got really 2 great guards to kind of headline this team.
It is the thankful month, and at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch, the red tags mean savings everywhere that you can be thankful for. New 24s and 25s. You got to love the all-new affordable Equinox for 2025. Red tags means money back for you, 0% financing, a ton of cash back for you. Red tags on Silverados, the new 24s, with 1.9 financing plus $3,750 back in cash. The new Colorado trucks, nothing to do with the Colorado Buffaloes, just the Colorado trucks. Financing down to 1.9 and not a payment until next year, until February. Your good credit deserves it, and you'll get it at All-Star Chevrolet. First exit on Highway 78 as you cross into Mississippi. Take Kraft Goodman Road, and you're there. If you're law enforcement, first responder, recent grad, military, healthcare worker, educator, you get an extra $500 bonus back. All-Star with all the pre-owns you can imagine. Jeeps, SUVs, Suburbans, Toyota, Nissan, Tahoes, and a ton of pre-owned Silverados. If you have any vehicle you want to sell, bring it to All-Star in Olive Branch, and you get the most money back for it today, tomorrow, into the rest of this month. And Drew DePriest and his staff. Drew DePriest, proud University of Memphis graduate, and his wife as well. And everyone at All-Star wish you a happy Thanksgiving and a start of a great, happy holiday season. Head down to All-Star Chevrolet and go to allstarautogroup.com for more information.
Well, we need to wrap up our second hour and get to another break. And when we come back, we're talking some Grizzlies. Ja Morant is going to be back tonight for the Grizzlies as they take on the Portland Trailblazers. So when we come back, we got to talk the NBA. We got to talk Grizzlies with DeMichael Cole.
The great thing about having an event catered by Central Barbecue.
What was that?
They turn any event into a cookout.
You stole that directly from their website.
Well, I didn't expect you to have looked at their website.
I've got events coming up. It's the holiday season, and there's no better way to make things easier than to have Central Barbecue cater it.
They have everything. Box lunches, meat platters, nacho bar kits.
And half and full sheet pans of their traditional barbecue sides. I'm looking at the website right now. You're quoting it verbatim.
Not exactly verbatim.
Word for word. This is a new level of lazy even by your standards.
That doesn't make it any less true. You can't beat Central Barbecue catering.
It's just plagiarism.
Guns, and more guns. Over 700 firearms in stock. Home defense guns, old guns, new guns, used guns, big guns, little guns. Every gun you can think of, Classic Arms has them. All brands like Glock, Sig, Colt, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Browning, Beretta, Benelli, Remington, Winchester, and more. Guaranteed lowest prices in town. Only gun importer in the Mid-South. Free gun inspections and appraisals and free bore sighting for the upcoming deer season. Shop online at ClassicArmsOfMemphis.com or visit Classic Arms at 1740 Germantown Parkway behind Quirky's Barbecue in Cordova.
The holidays are near, and Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing,
Plumbing and Generators is here to make this season extra cozy and cheerful. For the first 50 customers who purchase a new Carrier system, tankless water heater, or a whole home generator, we have a special gift for you. Choose from a $500 gift card or 60 months no interest financing. And don't forget about Choate's Refer a Friend referral program, where you can earn up to $500. Simply refer a friend to use our services, and if they become a customer, you can earn up to a $500 Visa gift card. But hurry, this festive offer will only last through December 20th. Visit ChoatesHVAC.com or call 347-8086 to schedule your free estimate today. And turn to the experts with Choates and let our family serve your family this holiday season.
Things you can do for your employees or family's health. Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery and setup, dependable service, and no long-term contracts. What an easy choice. Call Jeff Manus today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call now, 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
Ken Garland, you are in your 72nd year of business. Your son William is now joining you. What do you think is the key to your longevity in the building business?
My dad started the business in 1965, and I think being on the job sites daily and being accessible to homeowners has been a key to our success.
You guys have a work ethic, as you like to say. You're not hiring people to be on the site. You guys are there every day.
We interact with the subcontractors multiple times a day on each job site. I think that has been a key, as well as using the same subcontractors 20 plus years in most cases.
When you talk about materials, what is the first thing you're thinking about when somebody comes to you to build a home?
We're just trying to meet the expectations of the client and the homeowner and the architect and give them what their dream is.
When you get a Ken Garland home, what do you guarantee?
We'll be there after the job is finished. We're still accessible to all our clients.
Now I need to know, how do I get a hold of Ken Garland?
You can reach us at kengarland.com.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. In certain areas, you could be seeing some rain showers traveling down I-40, headed out towards Forest City there through Arkansas. Be careful. It's starting to build right on schedule now here in the Midtown area. All the major outbound routes have decided to finally start picking up just a bit, like 40 over here up by Chelsea. Traffic still looking good. 240 east from Mill Branch all the way out to 385. Bill Morris Parkway still moving out towards Collierville. Hey, when you need dependable towing for your car or truck, make sure you call Marion Towing, your 24-hour towing service. Log on to mariontowing.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis with Dave Woloshin, weekday mornings from 10 to 11. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Once again, our Brett Norsworthy and Brian Davis.
You say you stand by your man.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we start our 5 o'clock hour, and we do it like we do it every single Monday afternoon during the Grizzlies season, talking with DeMichael Cole, the Grizzlies beat writer over at the Commercial Appeal. DeMichael, thanks so much for joining us. The Grizz back in action tonight, just a couple hours till tip-off against the Portland Trail Blazers. And now you look up after that win Saturday over Chicago on the road. Grizzlies have now won 3 of their last 4 games. What did you see from them, especially Scottie Pippen, his best game of his career in against the team that his father used to play for?
Yeah, holding it down, right? As John gets closer and closer, you got Scottie Pippen Jr., best game of his career in that setting in Chicago. I mean, that's one of those poetic things, right? But how about the fact that his 2 best games in terms of scoring career highs, he had 28 against the Lakers, the team he last played for, then 30 against against Chicago, which is where, his dad won 6 championships. So, he's kind of been a big reason, for this steadiness. And then Jalen Wells, too, can't forget him, career high 26 points, career high 6 made 3-pointers. He's been, a real big piece as a second-round pick for them.
It sure has been, DeMichael, and it feels like, for what it's worth, I know what matters the most is the left-hand column, winning ball games. I know that. Bottom line guy, bottom line business that all of sports that it is. But the vibe, the feeling around the team, the buzz around the team, it's feeling like it's building and certainly getting better because really and truly, after we talked to you last Monday, Tuesday night was kind of rock bottom for the year in that loss to Denver. Then the win the next night against Philadelphia. That on the road to get to 10-7. Ja's return. This is building to get on maybe a roll.
Yeah, it's looking that way. And you look at these next games coming up here. You got 4 games against teams under 500, and the Grizzlies are aware of the schedule right now. Like they're very conscious of this stretch. It's teetering that way. And if you go back to both of the 50-plus win seasons, Brett, that they had a couple years ago, each season there was a stretch. Both cases it wasn't this early, but each season there was a stretch where, after basically they would start the season kind of slow, playing like mediocre basketball, whatever the case may be, inconsistent, and then they just turn it on. And this is the time for them to turn it on. You're getting, a couple big pieces back. You got this stretch here where it's not even just the fact that you're playing teams below 500. These teams are well below 500. All of them, at least 3 games under 500. And on top of that, you're at home. So this is really a time for the Grizzlies in the Western Conference when all these teams are about to be beating up on each other. A chance for them to kind of, make some headway and get up the standings a little bit.
And DeMichael, you touched on those 50-win seasons. Okay, tonight, Wednesday night against Portland, Wednesday night against Detroit, a Friday night against New Orleans. After that, that's 20 games in. Hubie Brown used to talk about 10-game increments. Well, we're going to expand that out to 20. Win these 3 this week. That's 13-7. DeMichael, I'm not that great at math, but 13-7, that gets out there to about that 50, 51, 52 projected win total. I'll take it after really everything the Grizzlies have been through since March of 2023.
Yeah, when you put it like that, you got to take it, right? You need some good vibes and some joyous moments around here. It just depends on kind of where you set the bar. Like you said, I'll take it too if you go back to everything that's happened since March 2023 isn't that first John Morant suspension, and then the second suspension, the first round playoff loss to the Lakers, and what last season was with a 27-55 record. So this is definitely where some of the better vibes are coming into play. But with all that being said, it's a stretch where I honestly expected this team to play well, and they're doing just that. So it's like this is the easier part of the schedule for them. So I honestly expected them to win a couple more of these games. But all things considered, like you said, if they win, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that puts you at 13-7, which is really good in the Western Conference.
Well, DeMichael, it's required every time we talk to you to talk about injuries. So I guess we'll start with the positive before maybe the negative. The status report came out last night. Both Ja Morant and Marcus Smart listed as questionable. We know Ja Morant's been out with the injury. Marcus Smart has been out for a few games due to an illness. Whether it's tonight, whether it's Wednesday night for Ja Morant, what will that look like as he returns? Will he be on minute restrictions? Will he be kind of trying to take it slow as he amps back up, or will it be all-out Ja Morant? What will it look like when he's back on the court?
Yeah, he ain't taking anything slow, that's for sure. But I even asked him this morning when I talked to him about, that first fall back on that hip, what's it going to be like for you? And basically, he said that he's not worried about it. Whatever happens at that point. So he's confident he's going to keep playing his style of basketball. I'm sure we're going to get the same attacking Morant, and he's going to do what he do. Now, with all that being said, he's missed, 8 games, and if history is an indicator here, especially with the way that the Grizzlies like to handle things, you're going to see them, kind of, build him back up, just like we've seen with Marcus Smart as well. Not maybe a heavy ramp-up period, so to speak, but there will be a kind of a stretch here where we say, hey, let's kind of teeter his minutes up a little bit. But I still I don't think it's anything heavy. If he plays today, I still think you could see him for a good amount of minutes. And even with that being said, like I said, with this part of the schedule, there should be no problem with him playing 27, 28 minutes because Scottie Pippen Jr. started a game in which the Grizzlies, beat this team by 40-plus points. So, like a couple weeks ago, this Portland team. So they're in a good position right now.
And DeMichael, we as a sporting public around here, media fans, everybody, we're just going to have to condition ourselves, ready ourselves for even the full return of Ja. We're going to have that innocuous, out of nowhere maintenance game night off. They may call it a lot of different things, but there's going to be a lot of nights that people are expecting to see him at FedEx Forum, or people wanting to see the star that he is on the road, that he's on the end of the bench in street clothes in civilians and not playing. That's just going to be part of it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's kind of where we are, with, kind of the way that the league is going. But then as it pertains to the Grizzlies, they're playing this up-tempo style of play. And I think I've touched on it before, but when I talked to, the Grizzlies, people about it and whatnot, the main thing that's been said is there's no kind of, I guess, background information. There's no previous data that they can point to say, hey, this style of play works or it doesn't work. So with all that being said, and how it pertains to injuries. So with all that being said, they're just being careful, with these guys, and I know sometimes it drives the fan base crazy how careful they're being, but they're basically building up the data here as they go in terms of playing this fast, game to game, with guys playing a certain amount of minutes, and especially with a guy who's the point guard. All of that. So it's almost like they're learning as they go with this thing.
Yeah. Kind of on the other side of the injury deal, Vince Williams now out with an ankle injury. We know Zach Edey is out with an ankle injury as well. Both were listed as week-to-week injuries, and then we got the update on Vince Williams, and it sounds like he'll be reevaluated. I believe it said in 4 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. What have you learned about both of those guys and their injuries, and kind of what's the latest for those two?
Yeah, it's going to be a while for Vince. Right now, saw him earlier. He's kind of, getting around on the scooter, so limited mobility there. His foot is, in a cast, in a boot. So, it'll be a while. And the reevaluation in 4 weeks, I think, that's kind of just what they'll reassess. I don't think anybody should expect him to be back around that time. I think that's just the moment where, hey, they'll reassess some things, kind of figure out what's going on, and go from there. Now, with all that being said, Zach Edey, I think he was at shoot around for a brief portion today, but did not dress out, with the players and stuff. So still going to take some time before he's back as well.
And we are awaiting the return of Marcus Smart, and I want to say this as diplomatically as I can say it, DeMichael. With his return, after he gets back in, it is time for his best basketball as a Grizzly and get happy, his happiest time of basketball as a member of the Grizzlies.
Yeah, and it could be a different role for him too. I think we'll see him kind of slowly get incorporated as well. But with the way that Jalen Wells, and in particular, has played as of late, it kind of puts the Grizzlies in a position where, Taylor Jenkins has talked about it in the past. We saw it when Desmond Bane came back for a game, and he had brought Desmond Bane off the bench, and a big part of that was the fact that they wanted to continue to build on that continuity that group had already established. So I think, with Marcus Smart in particular, he hasn't had, like you said, his best basketball of the season, just yet. He's had stretches where he's had some, good moments defensively, some good moments as a playmaker and things like that, knocked a couple shots down. but it hasn't been consistent yet. So it'd be good to kind of see him put all that together, when he can string some performances together. It's been, a couple injuries here and a couple things that have had him sidelined. So he'd be able to put some games together and kind of build that continuity. It'll be big for him, big for Memphis.
Speaking of Michael Cole, the Commercial Appeal Grizzlies beat writer, you look at Jaren. I think we talked about it last week. With Ja Morant, some of these other guys that have been out, he's really taken over. You've seen him kind of take over as that leader. It feels like both on the court and then during timeouts and huddles, but he's really been dominating on the court. With Ja Morant back, with Marcus Smart kind of ramping things up and it could be back. Do you think we see that same type of production from Jaren, or do you think it's kind of him taking not necessarily a step back, but just Ja's back out there? You don't have to do as much if you're Jaren.
Nah, Jaren's going to continue to do his thing, and in fact, that's what they want. Yeah. Like out of all the players, like Ja will be mad if he comes back and Jaren is like, "Hey, you got it now." Like. No, it's the last thing that they want to see in terms of with those three guys, with Dej, Jaren, and Ja. Everyone wants to see. I mean, if you look at the rankings right now in the advanced stats, not even this season, last season, and the year before, Jaren has graded out as one of the elite one-on-one players in the NBA over the course of all those seasons. He's doing it right now. He was there last year, and the season before, he graded out elite as well. So they're going to continue to feed him. He's going to continue to be aggressive. We saw it in a very small sample size last season when Dej, Jaren, and Ja played together, and it was kind of similar because, again, Jaren was kind of the one guy who was healthy for the better part of before and after when those guys came back. And when they came back last season and they had all three of those guys on the floor together, Jaren was still getting his touches, and he was still very aggressive. He still averaged over 20 points per game, in that stretch. So I expect to see some of the same stuff from him.
Mm-hmm. Earlier, we saw the Tigers take on UConn. Former UConn Husky Cam Spencer back from injury last week and has been getting minutes off the bench with some of the other injuries and guys being out. Played 12 minutes against the Bulls, was 1 for 1, and had a rebound. What did you make of the decision right when he comes back from injury to get him in there? It sounds like Taylor Jenkins kind of said that he had been very promising and practicing, was doing a lot of the right things that they wanted to see from him. And what have you made of the couple of games he's been able to participate in?
So which player did you say again?
Cam Spencer.
Yeah, Cam Spencer, right. I mean, he's been solid. I think his as a rookie, you kind of getting thrown into the season like that. It's a little bit different than it is for the vets. As a rookie, I feel like it's kind of important to get those preseason game reps and things like that. So I think in that first game, like you've seen him, kind of just, he was out there just passing the ball, doing some real connective stuff, but wasn't really getting off a lot of shots and things like that. Got his first basket in the second game. And eventually you're going to start to see some of that, dynamic three-point shooting and some of those opportunities. But now with the team being healthier, I don't think the minutes will be there for him, especially with, Marcus Smart, Ja Morant on the verge of being back. That's two more guards that are going to kind of take up some of those minutes. So there's not a lot of minutes out there for him, but, he's going to be one that's going to be fun to follow as he kind of gets, more reps under his belt. I think we could, expect to see him a little bit as well, playing with the hustle, and then eventually kind of just, working his way in with the opportunities that he'll get with the Grizzlies.
Our guest is DeMichael Cole from the Commercial Appeal. He's on the Memphis Grizzlies beat, and he's with us every Monday on our Sissy's Log Cabin guest line. DeMichael, rather muted, and most of them are like that after some accomplishment, but Taylor Jenkins was kind of mostly dismissive of passing Lionel Hollins as this franchise all-time winningest coach. I understand that. He'll probably appreciate it a lot more at the end of this year or someday when he reflects back on his career. But it felt like in the heat of the moment, it didn't mean that much to him because he's ready for advancement when it really matters at playoff time.
Oh, yeah. Taylor Jenkins is he's very, as the player said, he's not a me guy, so he acknowledged, the fact, like I wrote about it, the players, when he came into the locker room after the game, he did his normal little like his post-game little hype session with the players, and then he tried to go straight into just talking about the game, like, hey, good win, fellas, blah, 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 all that stuff. And the players noticed, and they're like, nope, we're not letting this happen. Like, you just had a landmark achievement, and we're going to celebrate it. And, they threw the water bottles at him, the Gatorade, and all that stuff. So the players had to make him kind of celebrate that one. But, yeah, Taylor is very appreciative of, what's happened, in his tenure in Memphis. You're rarely going to hear him, talk about it from a, self perspective. He's always talking about, the guys that he's inherited here, with Ja coming in when he did, Jaren being here already a season, and then Dez coming in the very next year, Brandon Clark, and even other guys that are gone, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, Tyus Jones. He came in and had a solid squad to kind of build upon, and they've established a nice identity here in Memphis, and Taylor Jenkins is a big part of that. I know some people have kind of questioned some of the things that he's done this season, whether it be with rotations and things like that. But this team has an identity, and pretty much every team outside of last year that, with all the injuries, all the Taylor Jenkins teams have had a solid identity, and that's kind of the number one thing as a coach. You have to form an identity, and that's not a question here in Memphis.
Mm-hmm. What did you make, speaking of Taylor Jenkins, of Draymond Green's comments about both Taylor Jenkins and Zach Edey when he was talking on his podcast about the foul being upgraded to a flagrant after the game was over, kind of calling both Jenkins and Zach Edey soft in his podcast?
Yeah, I didn't make too much. At the end of the day, I knew Taylor when I asked him, wasn't going to say much. That's just not who he is. He's not going to try to turn a headline into a me versus Draymond type of thing. He's very much focused on the task at hand, and I think his comments at the time were something like, I'm just, I love coaching my team, and I'm looking forward to doing it tomorrow, or something like that. So, Draymond said what he said, and I didn't make too much of it simply because of the fact that what we see a lot of times, what we see in this case, I think, is Draymond has a podcast, and he talks a lot, right?
Yeah.
And Draymond's talked a lot about the Grizzlies over the last couple of years, and I'm listening to him say good things and bad things about the Grizzlies. But over the last 2.5 years, I never heard him say anything close to this, when it comes to Taylor Jenkins. So I think this was just a reactive thing to what Taylor Jenkins said. But he's had plenty of opportunities, either when the Lakers beat the Grizzlies or when the whole Grizzlies-Warriors series was going on, and, it was mostly about what Dylan Brooks was saying and everything in between. He's had several opportunities to come out and say, how he feels about Taylor Jenkins or the Grizzlies being too soft of anything like that. I think that was just him pulling something out of the hat because of what Taylor said, and now he's got to try to be the guy who, as they say, hurt people. So when you get hurt, he's got to try to make Taylor Jenkins feel it a little bit more.
Wrong end. He didn't pull it out of his hat. He pulled it out of somewhere else, DeMichael.
Oh, man. DeMichael, I think either last week or the week before, I remember we asked you, it was kind of that stretch of games where it was the road games against the Lakers and the Warriors and then the back-to-back games against Denver. And we kind of asked you, over these next 4 games, what do you think the Grizzlies will do? What should we be happy with? Over this next 4-game stretch, you've got Portland tonight, Detroit on Wednesday, New Orleans, a team that's really struggled with injuries on Friday, and then an Indiana team that's also struggling on Sunday. What do you think the Grizzlies will do over these next 4 games? What should we be happy with if they do over these next 4 games?
I'm going to be honest with you. They shouldn't lose. I
agree. 4-0.
There's no other way to put it. 3-1 is okay, whatever, cool. You did good, but if this team is to be the team that people want them to be, if this team is to be the team that people need them to be, if this is going to be the team that's going to kind of establish themselves as one of the better teams in the Western Conference, you don't lose over this stretch. You got Ja back, you got Marcus Smart, you got Desmond Bane with a few games under his belt now since being out with the oblique injury. You got Jaren Jackson Jr. playing the best basketball of his career, and you're at home 4 games. These aren't teams that are close to 500. Like I said earlier, you got teams that are comfortably 3 games under. You shouldn't even lose 1 game out of these 4 games. You should go 4-0, which will be 5 games in a row, won in that case, and that'll put the Grizzlies at what, 14-7. You're at 14-7. I'm pretty sure you'll be somewhere in that top 5, of the Western Conference or whatever the case may be. So that'll be a big development for them. But yeah, I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat this one. You need to win all these games.
Yeah, no, you absolutely should.
Very candid, very honest, upright, DeMichael.
Yeah.
So agree.
Yeah. DeMichael, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next Monday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Take care.
Thanks, DeMichael.
Thank you.
DeMichael,
Right, boy, I agree.
Man, he brought it with that answer.
He did, and now my comments, he did. I think he was pretty striding along these lines. This is a time to establish something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talked about it, last week, even before the 76ers game and certainly before the Chicago game of, look, you just had, 4 tough games, but the schedule gets easy now, and if you're going to compete in the Western Conference and you look down the schedule and it gets harder, throughout the season, especially late, you've got to capitalize on these stretches when you have a clear advantage, and right now, these next 4 games, they're going to have a clear advantage with the guys they have, and yeah, they should go out and win all 4 of these games.
Are we going to be an excelling, improving, hitting stride Memphis?
Yeah.
Or are we just going to be in that glob of teams like Portland, Detroit, New Orleans, and Indiana?
Right, yeah. And so, they should, and you'll go out and win this, and obviously with Ja back tonight, that's definitely going to help things, having him on the court, and, maybe get back to a little bit of normal with this roster and this rotation, especially stars. I know you don't got Zach Edey out there right now, but, hopefully you can capitalize, and hopefully that ramp up isn't as bad or dire, or, you play him and then you've got to sit him because of minute restrictions. Hopefully you just let him go out there and, for the most part, just let him play.
And I think it is, if you think mood and vibe and pop around here is good right now, and it is at 10-7. Imagine 14-7.
Yeah, exactly. And so they have a really good opportunity ahead of them, and it starts tonight against Portland, a Portland team that on the road a couple weeks ago they really handled. So we'll see what they can do at home in just a couple of hours. Before we get to this break, let me remind you, our great sponsors, Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City has been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984. The talented team, they're ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar, or the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport, where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility, with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender, available in multiple models to fit your needs. The Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 677-259-6169, or visit them online at jaguarbluffcity.com. But make sure you go out, visit, and test drive all of these vehicles. 6335 Wheel Cove, right there just off of Quince, for Bluff City Jaguar. Well, let's get to another break, and when we come back, it'll be time for our Monday Night Football pick and preview. Baltimore and the Chargers tonight. We'll also have to get to our Big Four head coaches. We'll do that next.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hello, sports fans out there. Walker Taylor here with the Germantown and Collierville Commissary. We just celebrated our 43rd year in business, and I would like to thank our fantastic customers and especially our loyal staff. Time has flown by. We now have a second location, Poplar and Houston Levy in Collierville. Catering is a specialty of ours. 50 to 5,000, no job too small, no job too big. Full service or self-service. We also have a party room in Collierville that is great for rehearsal dinners, business meetings, you name it, we'd love to have you. Also, our barbecue party packs start at $8.75 a person. Barbecue, beans, slaw, bun sauce, including serving utensils. Especially great for tailgating with football season coming up. The commissary restaurants also believe in giving back to the community. Possibly you have been approached by somebody selling a barbecue six-pack coupon for fundraising. Cheerleading groups, church groups, anything to help a worthy cause. Holidays are near. Smoked hams and smoked turkeys will be on the pit before you know it. Come see us at Germantown and Collierville Commissary. Also check us out at commissarybarbecue.com.
No two people learn the exact same way. So how did Babbel become the award-winning language learning app? We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be in the room with real people kind of learner. So he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. Vos está pronto. Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. BABBEL.com. Oh no, my phone.
Hear that? It's the sound of a skater dropping her phone and smashing it on the ice. Yep, it's definitely broken. But at Verizon, we got you. Black Friday starts now. Trade in any phone, any condition for one of our top brands and get a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus on Unlimited Ultimate and Watch 7 and Tab S9 FE 5G. That's up to $1,900 in value. So you'll save big on 3 great gifts. Hurry into Verizon this Black Friday. Service plan required for Watch and Tab. Up to $1,900 value based on phone, Watch, and Tab. Trade in individual terms of see Verizon.com for details.
Rich Eisen here from Monday Night Football on Westwood One. Coming up from Los Angeles, it's the Ravens at the Chargers. First-year head coach Jim Harbaugh has the Bolts on a 4-game win streak and playing confident. Now they'll be tested by the 1-2 punch of Baltimore's Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Don't miss Kevin Harlan and Hall of Famer Kurt Warner's call on Monday Night Football.
Right here on Sports 56.
You okay?
Sorry, I can't sleep with this cough.
Sounds like you need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with NyQuil VapoCool. It's NyQuil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
So you ready to get some sleep? Thank you, NyQuil VapoCool.
NyQuil VapoCool, the vaporizing nighttime coughing, aching, fever, best sleep with a cold medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
All right, gentlemen, this is Emmett Smith on behalf of Depend, and I've got the perfect play. Run straight to your doctor's office for a life-changing gift, because when prostate cancer is caught early, it's up to 99% treatable, and one blood test might be all it takes. And now through November, Depend is donating to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for select purchases. Talk about a great deal.
From September 1st to November 30th, Depend is donating 30 cents to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for Depend Shield Guards vehicle products purchased in the U.S. up to a maximum of $400,000 void in Mississippi.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. We did see motorists dodging some debris a few minutes ago on Bill Morris Parkway going outbound past Hacks Crossroads. You got that traffic volume headed out towards Collierville. It's kind of heavier over here now on 40 East from Sycamore View Road all the way out past Germantown Parkway as it starts to really crank up on 40 East headed on out into Fayette County. Shop now and save during this holiday season at Weimer's Jewelry. Shop local, save a lot of money this year at Weimer's Jewelry, 7525 Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Howard Cosell. Welcome aboard. Night Football.
Monday Night Football, it's back, and tonight a fun matchup between some brothers, Ravens at Chargers. 7 o'clock, we'll have the coverage right here on Sports 56 once Rebel Yell is done. And those two brothers, the Harbaugh bros, they go at it again with Jim coming back to the NFL. This should be, you look at it on paper, you look at what these two teams have done, this looks like it's going to be a really fun game.
It should be a fun game, and I was at the Harbaugh brothers Super Bowl down at Super Bowl 47 in New Orleans. The first of 5 Super Bowls I was proud and honored to cover for this radio station, and that week I really thought John Harbaugh had the better week in the media because he feels a little more at ease and a little more comfortable than Jim Harbaugh. Coach Jim Harbaugh feels like he is constantly just grinding away, and both of them were reared by the same dad and coach in high school, and growing up by the same dad. But Jim Harbaugh had the fun of the Bo Schembechler and Mike Ditka experience. I think that would make you be wound a little tighter than most other people. But it'll be fun tonight. I don't know if there's another Harbaugh boys Super Bowl. Well, it's not going to be because they're both in the AFC, but it could be an AFC championship game for them.
And that'd be fun. I mean, I think, these two guys are, really good coaches. I mean, you can just see it when their teams are out there competing. Two really good coaches, and then when you have that on top of it, of the brothers going at each other, it makes for a fun matchup and one that a lot of people like talking about. So, yeah, I'd be for that. I'd be completely fine with that.
Ravens this year 5-5-1 against the point spread. The Chargers 7-3 against the point spread all time in this series, short series, 9-5. The Ravens lead last meeting, 2023. The Ravens won over the Chargers 20-10, and it's important for both in the playoffs for this year. The two quarterbacks, it speaks for itself. Two-time MVP for Lamar Jackson, and we keep waiting for Justin Herbert to have that MVP year.
Yeah, and I think two really good quarterbacks, and one has shown it for a while now. The other feels like we've seen flashes, but we're kind of waiting for him to put it all together in Justin Herbert. But has been a good quarterback, and I think that system that Jim Harbaugh wants to come in and run. I think he's gonna succeed in that, and we'll see what he can do in his career. After being under Harbaugh for a couple years.
It is stunning to see the struggles of Justin Tucker. Missed 2 field goals last week, and really under pressure after spending a lot of his career untouched by anybody. He was so good. He's missed 6 field goals on the season and 4 for 12 from 50-plus yards since the start of last season.
Is that right?
Sometimes those kickers can be like relief pitchers. It can go as fast as it arrived.
I don't think I realized that it was that. I just assumed kind of same old with him, but you're right. Sometimes you got it and sometimes you don't. And for kickers, you want to have it because when it goes,
between the ears,
you get a lot of people, a lot of folks pointing at you, and it gets in between the ears.
And a lot of the same terminology of the golfer, whether it's the yips or the pressure of having to make that putt. But we got to pick this game tonight. Over the weekend, another tour de force performance by Darian. College, he went 5-0.
Wow.
And got 6 points and hit his college football shock straight up. In college, Bryant, you went 3-2. Connor went 2-3, and I went 1-4. My only win was the Auburn Tigers.
Wow.
My good buddy Hugh Freeze winning straight up.
How about that? Did it for you, Brett?
It sure did. Thank you, Coach. And in the NFL, I go 2-3. The other 3 of you guys all go 3-2. Bryant goes 3-2. Wow. Darian Connor goes 3-2. But Darian hits his NFL straight up, NFL shock. You do as well. Connor won his straight up too with Dallas. I got to give you the point total. Got to cheat him out of a point.
I don't want to contest my record for NFL, but what 2 losses do you have for me?
Minnesota.
I took the Bears in that one.
I'm sorry. I wrote it down
How
wrong.
about that? Well,
You know I trust you.
I know you do, and I trust you too. That's why I had to question it.
All the way.
Because funny enough, when I was watching these games, a lot of times during games and when games are done, I'll go and I have it in my notes app, and I'll put a little check mark or an X beside it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd already put the X beside it with the Bears, and so
You got
when
there.
when they came back, I was very quick to go change that to a check mark. That's why I had to contest that, because I
always
was very
like for y'all to
happy.
revise and extend the remarks
Yes.
and keep track at home. But very good picking for you. That makes you 4-1 NFL.
How about that? A good weekend.
With 5 points tonight. Baltimore minus 2.5 in Los Angeles against the Chargers. Connor takes Baltimore. Darian takes Baltimore. Brian, who do you have?
So it's Baltimore minus 2.5. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Wow. I'll take the Chargers in this one. Why not?
I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with you. I mean, a home NFL team.
Yeah, it's hard to go against that.
And now there will be a lot of Ravens fans there. Is anytime there's a game for Rams and Chargers, the other teams descend on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, last night, that game.
Unbelievable.
I mean, just every time Saquon would get the ball and get a big carry, I mean, you would
It's
hear
like
a
being at the
loud
vet.
pop. Yeah, and I was going, what in the world? And then I realized, it's it's a game at the Rams. So, yeah, of course there's going to be opposing fans there.
Programming reminder, Wednesday we will do First National Bank Friday football forecast. We know it's not Friday on Wednesday, but that's when we're going to do it because we're out Friday. Ole Miss Egg Bowl coverage will be during our time on Friday. So tonight I threw out to everybody the big four coaches between these two teams all time. There's a lot of good coaches that these teams had. Here's Darian's, and I like his list. He has number 4 all-time Don Coryell, revolutionary in the NFL with Air Coryell. He was. Number 3, Marty Schottenheimer.
Wow.
Just one of the all-time greats to never win a Super Bowl or even play in a Super Bowl. Number 2, Brian Billick, one of 2 Ravens head coaches that have the Lombardi Trophy, and the other one being John Harbaugh at number 1. So Harbaugh 1, Billick 2, Marty Schottenheimer 3, Don Coryell 4. Brian, you're big 4.
I've got Marty at 4.
You do?
I
Okay.
do. I have him at 4. I have, how about this, Jim Harbaugh at 3. I mean, give me a college national championship. Give me going to the Super
kidding.
Bowl. I mean, I think he's done
Been to the
enough
Super Bowl.
to be there.
And remember that NFC Championship game lost in the last game at Candlestick in what I thought was the finest NFL hour for Eli Manning.
That's a really good point. So I have Jim Harbaugh in there at 3. 2, I've got the brother, John Harbaugh, at number 2 for me. And then I got Don Coryell at number 1. I've got
Wow,
number
no
1 for me.
Brian Billick, the world's
No.
smartest man that won a Super Bowl. He
No.
really thought he was the world's
Well,
smartest man.
yeah, maybe I knocked him a couple points for that reason.
Okay, my number 1 is John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
He has a Super Bowl. I think that's the tiebreak with brother Jim. Number 2 for me is Brian Billick, even though he is the world's smartest man. He did win a Super Bowl. I don't know that his defense won a Super Bowl, but he was the head coach of it. He won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point.
And number 3 for me is Jim Harbaugh, as we discussed. Number 4 for me, and this was really for the time as Chargers and for Ravens, but you referenced Jim Harbaugh in college. Coaching is coaching.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me, you win a national championship at Georgia Tech, and you take the Chargers to their only Super Bowl, Bobby Ross.
That's a good one. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's a really good one.
And Bobby Ross had good years, I think, at Maryland as well. So
That's a good one. I can't believe it.
Harbaugh boys, Billick and Bobby Ross. I left
list.
that Don Coryell. How do you do that?
Yeah,
he changed it.
that's,
How did we leave out Sid Gilman?
I had him OLI. I had him right outside. But
Yeah.
it was that was before merger, right? He was with them before the merger.
Yeah.
So I kind of docked him a point for that. That's not on him though. I shouldn't have docked him points for that.
He was the Congress. He had the Congressman Jack Kemp, and he had Lance Allworth, and but the offensive helped revolutionize the sport.
Yeah, no, it absolutely did. And I think this is going to be a really, really fun game tonight. I mean, you look at what the Ravens have done. 7-4, and I think a team that really wants to win games here and try to put themselves in a better position. Everyone was talking about it a couple weeks ago when they were on the road against the Steelers. Oh, they're going to win this game, and they're going to take total control of the AFC North, and then they go out and lose that game. So now 7-4, and on the other side, Chargers, a really good season, and they've been really, really good at home. 7-3 overall, but 4-1 when they play in their stadium. So maybe an edge here tonight.
We had it to coaches. You think of the front office figures these two have always had. In Ozzie, we trust. What Ozzie Newsome did, accomplished, the reputation in Baltimore, he's in the Hall of Fame as a player. Almost should go in again as an executive.
Yeah.
For the Chargers, whether it's San Diego or Los Angeles, Bobby Beathard, what he always did, and Al Davis, really got his start with the Barron Hilton owned Chargers.
Yeah, some good names. Could have done an exec list. How about that?
Sure could.
Yeah, with these two teams and what they've done. But I know the buildup has kind of been there all weekend and even before that for these two brothers going up against each other again. And I'm sure here when we're done and watching ESPN's pregame, I'm sure that'll be a big talking point before this game starts.
I like the Harbaugh boys, tough guys, and at the Super Bowl, both parents were around for a lot of media availabilities. The mom was like everybody's mom. I mean, you could tell the real. Like all moms, the real glue of every family. The dad a little more intense than mom, and you could tell, when he spoke, everybody listened like a lot of dads and a lot of families. This week, a lot of families are going to be getting together for that special time of year, one of the great special times of the year, and Jim's Place Grill, put it on your list. I know on Thursday we're all going to kind of be at home. That's not really going out at that time, but on the night before and the night after, the Friday night after Thanksgiving, one of the big restaurant night out in Memphis because everybody's ready to get away to Jim's Place Grill, where for over 100 years they've had those great charcoal grill steaks, over 100 years of celebrations, these time of years, family time and lasting memories. Get some of those desserts or some of those salads with that great salad dressing to really spice up your big meal on Thursday. The Terrace family with their touch for our community. Recipes that date back to the beginning in downtown and now in Collierville at the railroad tracks, at Poplar and Houston Levee. Online at jimsplacegrill.com. Don't forget the E in grill, and it's where every steak is grilled perfectly over an open flame. Come to Jim's Place and taste and see the difference. And on Friday afternoon, we have Jason Munns with us talking Tiger basketball, presented every Friday by the great people at Jim's Place Grill in Collierville. Lunch hours, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dinner hours, Monday through Saturday, 5 p.m. to 9:30. Since 1921, a Memphis landmark, a staple, where hard work, values, and a dedication to their diners have made the Terrace family and helped create a memorable dining experience. Fantastic bar area that you can enjoy right now watching Monday Night Football, and I bet people were there for the end of the Tigers game. Fantastic, great bar area, Jim's Place Grill in Collierville.
Let's get to our final break of the day. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's show with Crunch Time.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Simple, smooth, and every sip is easy as the last. Tito's handmade vodka tastes just as good with tap water as it does your favorite mixers. Back in the day, Tito distilled, hand-bottled, taste-tested, sent out to a few friends, then taste-tested again to give you the finest juice around. No frills, no flavors, no fancy labels, just the good stuff, just Tito's. For recipes, videos, and more, visit Tito'sVodka.com. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, mainly 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Rick's Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Rick's Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With 2 conveyor lines and the largest batch ovens in the Mid-South, Rick's can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Rick's Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Rick's Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or rickspowdercoating.com.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. 5 Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. 5 Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
5 Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
You want it? We got it at Gossett Mitsubishi on the Pike. The year-end sales event is going strong, and now it's your time to buy. Save big on 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, $32,250 or $269 a month. 2024 Mitsubishi Mirage, $17,910 or $279 a month. Or 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, we got it at $28,050 or $399 a month. Plus, every Gossett Mitsubishi comes with Mitsubishi's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. The year-end sales event is going strong, so hurry to Gossett Mitsubishi today and end your year with big savings at 1870 Covington Pike and 24/7 at MemphisMitsubishi.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
RZO 67244, MSRP 42750, Mirage RHO 15713, MSRP 18410, Outlander RUO 20512, MSRP 29550, includes all rebates and incentives, PF 695, excludes tax file and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through end of the month. Dealer stock only.
Looking for a fun way to get your child active and involved with the Memphis Grizzlies? Junior Grizzlies Game Day Clinics presented by Ortho South are the perfect solution. Get your game ready for the big leagues at grizzlies.com/Junior Grizzlies. Don't miss out.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Here once again are Brett Norsworthy and Brian Dacus.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live.
In your life have you seen anything like that?
Goodbye! Hello, high school!
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin, this baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned today, the Memphis Tigers got a massive win earlier this afternoon over the number 2 team in the country, the defending back-to-back national champion UConn Huskies, and it came in wild fashion. It came in the fashion that we want Maui games to come in. It was a well-earned win, a game that was forced into overtime, and without P.J. Haggerty, without Nicholas Jourdain on the court, the Tigers were still able to pick up a big-time victory. After the game, Penny Hardaway was asked, was this the biggest win of your career as the Memphis basketball coach? And he said, yes. Yes, it is. With beating a team like that,
Great for him.
Defending champs, and where it was being a part of Maui, he said it was definitely his biggest win as Memphis's head coach. So a huge win. Now we'll wait and see what happens in this game between Colorado and Michigan State. The winner will see the Memphis Tigers tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock.
And I hope this is a launching point for the rest of the year for a lot more wins and better crowds and Tiger enthusiasm that we have known to come and love through all the many years with Tiger basketball. I learned also over the weekend, I want to be fair about this. College football overtime is really bad, but I don't like the NFL overtime either. Right. And I'm here to tell everybody I don't have a plan for it. I'm not Mr. Answer guy on this. I want other people's input. I want to hear ideas because I really wish at the end of it we would just go home with a tie. Nobody's doing that. I know that is very 1970s thinking, 80s maybe. That's not going to happen. So I want people to give me a good plan going forward, but I can't stand college overtime. I think it's the most detestable of the two, but I don't like NFL either.
No, I'm not a huge fan of either of them right now, but I'm not the one with the answer, I guess. What I could have done without, Brett, it was supposed to be... You're supposed to get Giants fans excited, even though the team was losing. Have something to get excited about. Tommy DeVito back in there, everyone's favorite Italian quarterback. But, man, that was ugly yesterday afternoon. It was all Buccaneers all afternoon. They pretty much did whatever they wanted. Baker Mayfield in classic vintage Baker Mayfield style. He scores a rushing touchdown, and as he's in the end zone, starts doing a very aggressive, the Italian sign that Tommy DeVito always does. So, yeah, that wasn't fun, and it looks like right now the Giants are an absolute mess. 37 score last night. The Giants fall to 2-9. I don't know where the answers come from, but right now they're in a really bad place.
I could have done with at this moment in time yesterday about 3:15. Tell me what happened at the end of Bears, Vikings, Dallas, Washington, KC, Carolina, Tennessee, and the Texans. Any of those four endings would not have been believable, and all four happened in about a 3 to 4 minute stretch of each other. All of it. It was weird stuff.
It's the witching hours, Brett. It's when losses turn to wins and wins turn to losses. Something like that. It's
our Cowboys.
Our Cowboys, Brett.
Our Titans, Landon.
Well,
my Lions.
I'll let you and Landon be on the on that Titans bandwagon. And yes, your Lions continue to do what they've done all year long. Just win 10-1 now with the 24.
First time since 1934.
Wow. That's a long time, Brett.
That was their first year being the Detroit Lions. Before that, they'd been the Portsmouth Lions.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Well, Detroit, I know they're excited about their team right now. Where are you beaming tonight?
Beam me to Maui. Next few days are going to be extraordinarily fun. Want it? And we got it today with a thriller, with a Memphis Tigers all-time classic thrilling win.
Yeah.
You let the sweet test of time and ruminating about it and expanding on it. Right now, we're really too close to it. But it will stand the test of time as an all-timer. Over the back-to-back national champs, now Memphis looks like will face Michigan State. They've been in control most of this game against Colorado. Tom Izzo tomorrow, bring it on.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I was saying it to a lot of people that, I felt pretty good about the Tigers against Colorado or Michigan State. Whoever they were to see in the second game. And so, like you said, it looks like it's Michigan State. We'll see what this Tigers team can do again tomorrow.
You know what everybody ran the program saying, all the administrators, all the assistant coaches, Coach Hardy, get them off their feet, let them rest, get them off their feet, get them out of the hotel lobby. Because with that short rotation of the Tigers to play these three rat-a-tat-tat, that's going to be grueling.
No, it will be, and we'll see. I mentioned it earlier. Some of those guys that have not been practicing and had to play a lot of minutes today with that game going into overtime, and how does their body respond tomorrow, and then even on Wednesday, the final game of the season or of this of Maui. But being me tonight, I'm gonna go to Maui as well because that Auburn and Iowa State game, I still don't understand how this is a first round Maui matchup. I mean, it felt like this is something where you split Colorado
4 versus 5 last week, Paul.
I mean, I just why did you not split this up? Maybe Colorado plays Auburn and Iowa State plays Michigan State. I don't know, but that's going to be a heck of a game later tonight.
Sneaky good one tonight in the American. 4-1 North Texas against 4-1 Oregon State.
Yeah, that will be a good one, and maybe it's been kind of rough for the American to start the season, so maybe that can try. I mean, obviously, Memphis getting things going.
And
early,
Rob Fisher on our TV tonight.
Yes,
Grizzlies at home against Portland.
John Morant on our TVs tonight, so that will be fun.
That's kind of the marquee, Rob Fisher and John Morant, right?
Yes, but Rob Fisher's name goes first.
Right,
He is the headliner for sure. But that's all the time we have. Enjoy the night. Enjoy these games, whether it's the NFL, the NBA, or college basketball. It's going to be fun action all night long, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.
Take your basketball skills to the next level at Shoot 360 Memphis. Shoot 360 is a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification and provides instant, objective feedback with hands-on, one-on-one expert coaching. And now, introducing Shoot 360 Cordova, a newly renovated 50,000 square foot facility with 2 NBA regulation size courts, 3 high school size courts, and 4 shooting bays with Shoot 360 technology. Memberships are now on a monthly basis. And yes, you can become a member at both locations. Whether you're an aspiring young talent, NBA player, or looking for a unique workout, all skill levels are welcome at Shoot 360 Memphis to learn proper shooting and passing techniques, improve fundamentals, and gain a competitive edge while having fun. Shoot 360 Memphis, now in Cordova and Collierville. Call them today at 901-779-3176. That's